In a world of constant evolution, where the line between man and machine begins to blur, a new age of possibility emerges. Where humanity is augmented to achieve what was once thought impossible. Welcome to the age of cybernetics. Push the limits of what we thought was possible. Pushing the boundaries of human potential. Where technology can enhance us beyond our wildest dreams. In a world of constant evolution, where the line between man and machine begins to blur, a new age of possibility emerges. Where humanity is augmented to achieve what was once thought impossible. Welcome to the age of cybernetics.
And here we are. We're live. What's going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to the monthly report. What's going on, Shane?
Not much. Is he? I can't believe it's been a month already. It just seems like it was last week we did this.
It's a short.
So
it's a
cool.
short
Like
month.
I can't wait. There's so much cool stuff happening in the last month.
Yeah, and wow. With that being said, the last month has been something too, because guys, we did it. We hit that 10K mark. Wow. I didn't think this was gonna happen the way it did, but it happened. And I want to just say thank you to everyone who helped this channel grow. You know, I do promise that we will have a 10K show. And in that 10K show, we will have a giveaway. Really, so we'll get some people in the community out there. Tomorrow is Elite Comics, so what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna grab something there that's gonna be for the giveaway. So I'm actually going to grab something there for the giveaway, for the 10K giveaway. And that's happening starting tomorrow at 10 a.m. It's from 10 to 6 over at Queens, New York, St. John's University, I believe it is. If you purchase the tickets now, you get a pre-sale for only $11. It's gonna be $20 at the door. So go for it. It's nearly almost half off the price. Parking is free. CGC is going to be in the premise. So if you want to submit some books just for that reason alone, I'm willing to go, because it costs me money just to ship books. But definitely a show worth checking out. Let's go say what's up to the people in the chat, because apparently we have people. I didn't know we were going to have people. It's right now we have a little number 3, but that's okay, because not everybody knows about this show. So let's go ahead, and first off, thank you so much, Shane, for it, man. It means a lot. And
well, I want to throw out there, Izzy, before you get to the chat. We call this where I work, pumping the tires. So I'm going to pump your tires a little bit and say, anybody that, like that comment says, I create content, and a lot of people that watch this do or think about it, and have little channels and start small. And we all know how difficult it is to reach 10K in the comic world. I mean, there's probably not many channels that do this type of content that would have higher numbers. There's a few, but not many. And it's a feat, and it really shows off in all of the hard work that you do in these, the presentations and the streams and the videos. Like, it's well deserved, but congratulations, like, officially. So
thank you so much, Shane. Shane, I really do appreciate that, man. All right. Tony. Hey, Tony. What's going on, my man? I always do that with him. Kenneth Burr also's in the house. What's going on, Kenneth? Let me make sure my stream is not lagging, because it feels like it is. Because stuff is happening in the background, I bet. Let's see here. That's been paused. Let's see here. Has that been paused? Well, it's going to be paused. Okay, now it's paused. Okay, good. I don't want anything lagging in the background. So.
Oh, yeah.
Like so many things, man.
Like,
there's always something
old.
going on.
I gotta shut everything down.
Yeah, my computer's like 2 months old. No, it's actually a little. It's not that. It's a little older than that. But all right, let's see here. Okay, so we got Nerdy Geek is also in the house, saying what's up to you, as well as me, giving me the "Cómo está mi amigo?" I like that. Yo estoy bien, okay. Thank you so much, Kenneth. Yep. Ooh. Whew. 20K. It took me this long to get to 10K, man.
It's like a snowball. We got the.
Yeah, I heard it's getting your first 10K is the hardest, but they're not going to give me a plaque. So
no
they
plaque.
They used to give plaques. Believe it or not, they used to give plaques for 10K, and then they got cheap. So they don't do that anymore. So what the heck? All right. Thank you so much, Nerdy Geek. I really do appreciate it. I hit my 10th subscriber. There you go. That's a good starting point. And there we go, Lawrence, Mighty Comics Collectible. I'm gonna be hanging out with Lawrence tomorrow, man. That's gonna be fun. Thank you so much for stopping by, Lawrence. We're gonna have a great show. I was just chatting with Lawrence a few minutes ago, and he was like, "Yo, I gotta make it to the show one day." I was like, "Yep, you're definitely invited to make the show." I think your opinion matters, and I think in a show like this one, we talk about the monthly numbers. I think what we're gonna talk about is gonna be really important. So, thanks for stopping by, Lawrence. All right, with that said, we're gonna be talking about some books here. We're gonna be doing things. If you saw last month's trending, we had a couple of things that we talked about. We're gonna do it again. We're gonna go over all this stuff. It should be a long one. I hope we stop it. I hope this doesn't go longer than 3 hours. That's what I hope. But either way, whatever happens, happens. Let's go ahead and get this show started. Let's start off and talk about the top trending comics for February 2025. All right. So, look at that. Hey, guys. Sorry, get off topic, but I feel 100% better. That's good to hear. Definitely good to hear about these. So, I'm happy you're feeling better. All right. With that said, we're going to talk about the top 5 trending comics. Now, this is a list that you have not seen so far, Shane. You didn't get a chance to see it. I was working on it today. And what I ended up doing, Shane, is I have a scorecard. And in that scorecard, I take all the books that were rated between the 4 weeks that we had a trendy list for February. I take the highest ranked, and then you get your top 5. And then from there, we have the sales data to go along with it. I was shocked to find out who was number 1. Shocked. Because it's not who you think it is.
I have a pick between 2 books, so we'll see if I'm right or not.
All right. So the fact that you don't get to you don't know what it is, it makes me a little happy because I want to hear your shock value of it. But I am going to tell you, spoiler, these 5 that you see here are the top 5 books. The order is interesting. All right. You ready to take a look at the list?
Let's check it out.
Let's start with number 5. Fantastic Four 209. This is the first appearance of Herbie. It is also the first John Byrne Fantastic Four. This book came out in 1979 for Marvel Comics. The last sale of this book was $18 at a no grade. The fair market value of this book is at $16 fine, and a 9.6 goes for $144. Monthly sales total are 84 books that were recorded. The scorecard of this book is 303. That's the points that it got. It did reach the top 10 list numerous times within the top 5. I do believe it hit number 1 at one time as well. So what's your thoughts on this one?
This is one of those easy Fantastic Four kind of spec books for the movie. You know, a lot of people picking it up because Herbie was in the trailer. This is that classic kind of Marvel where you buy, ideally low, and let it build up, and then you'll see a lot of sales, I think, of this as the movie gets closer, people unloading them at the peak.
This is a fairly inexpensive book. Obviously, it's the first appearance of Herbie. I know that you could probably pick this book up for like $10 somewhere, maybe even cheaper in some places, depending on where you find it. However, because of Herbie, out of all things, this book made some numbers just because of Herbie. And I think it's the affordability of it as well. Yeah,
exactly. Like the main Fantastic books, of course, for the regular people like me and you, they're well outside of our price range. And so this is something that, you can go to the comic store, and you could have found this book in your comic store, probably just in the bins, no problem.
Yeah, that's where I found it last year. So I grabbed it before all the hoopla. All right. Number 5, Fantastic Four 209. Number 4, Fantastic Four 49. This book came out in 1966 for Marvel Comics. The last sale of this book was at $382 at a no grade. Fair market value of this book is $456 at a very good, while the fair market value goes for a 4.5 is $573. Monthly sales, they sold 80 copies of this book, which is actually really impressive for a book of this magnitude. The scorecard has it at 307. Another book that was a top 5 contender plenty of times. It made it to number 4 on this list. But iconic blue chip book.
Oh, 100%. This is like night and day comparison to number 5.
Mm-hmm.
This is that book that I'd love to own, that Fantastic Four trio of books at some point in my life, but I don't know if I ever will. I'm not a huge Fantastic Four fan, but I love comic history, and this book is comic history. So
yeah, and in general, all the Fantastic Four, 48, 49, 50, they all made it to this list at one point or another in February, because the hype behind everything was such a big deal. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So Fantastic Four 49, number 4. Let's take a look at what's number 3, and that is Hulk number 1. This one came out in 2008 for Marvel Comics. The last sale of this book was $270, and that was at a 9.8. The fair market value of this book is $50 near mint, while 9.8 is going for about $265. So the person actually spent a little bit more than what the fair market value is, and $5 is $5. Not that much of a big deal. Monthly sales, another one that had a high sales of 115 copies that were recorded in the month of February. In the scorecard, this came in at 482. This book was number 1 multiple times in the month of February.
Yeah, and I'm super happy about this. And for the record, I didn't tell you my 2 picks, but my 2 picks are in 1 and 2. I don't know what order, but I kind of figured those other 2 books would be 1 or 2. So
yeah,
and this one I have at CGC right now, waiting grading, and I would gladly part with it at that price, no problem.
Another thing is, over the weekend they were doing a lot of Incredible Hulk, Red Hulk, whatnot sales packs, and I think that drove the number of this book, even though we were not counting what happened in the month of March. So these numbers are strictly for the month of February. I think we're still going to see this book in our list, even for the month of February, in the month of March. I mean,
it'd be interesting to see, because the movie came out halfway through the month, so there would be some sales definitely before that of this book. I'll be curious to see where it is, if it makes the list in March, for sure.
Yeah, in fact, the Whatnot books are outperforming this one.
I know we don't have time for the side rant that I would go on because of that.
I want to see it.
Let's just leave it at that, and don't wind me up about that, because it's just insanity.
All right. So let's take a look at number 2. Number 2 is Spawn 356. This came out last year for Image Comics. The last sale of this book was $22 at near mint. Fair market value of this book is also at $22 near mint. 9.8 are still at $57, because as we talked about this actually earlier this week, no one's selling their books.
Yeah.
So the monthly sales are $142, and that's all in raw copies. The scorecard has this at 497. This book was number 1 on the list at least 2 times that I could think of in the month of February.
Yeah, we've seen this book multiple times in the 30, 60, 90 on the weekly show, in the trending list. So yeah, and again, I have this book. I just dropped it off in another big package for CGC, another 25 books. So right now I have 50 books at CGC, and this is one of them. And I have to believe that I have a save search on for this, and mine's limited to Canada, but again, we talked about it on the weekly show. I don't see this book going for $57 when it lists. I just don't see it.
Oh no, I agree with you. It's gonna go up once that listing comes in. It's gonna go up. It just hasn't sold yet.
Yeah,
we don't have a recorded slab sale as of right now. So who's to say what's gonna go up? Will it be in the hundreds? Only time will tell.
Yeah, I think so.
And the number 1 book for the month of February was an absolute shocker to me. And it's a shocker because it was never number one in the month of February, but it was always in the list. And then the number one book for the month of February is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #1. This book came out in 2025. The last sale of this book was $11 near mint. Fair market value of this book is at $13 near mint. 9/8 gold for $73. The monthly sale, 156 recorded copies. The reason why it's #1 is because of that scorecard of 543. This book was in every list in February. It was never #1, but it always stood there. It was always there. So it made it to be the #1 book of the month, even when the other books were #1 at one time. But the other books weren't always at the list every week. So the scorecard, trust me when I say it, the scorecard doesn't lie.
This is a big surprise, and I think part of the reason that it's such a surprise is that I think there's a lot of support for this book and that show. It's just not a vocal showing right now, where you don't really hear about it all the time. But everybody that I've talked to that's watched the show, they might have a couple of little critiques here and there, but for the most part, they enjoy it. And the story of the comics is being told in such a way that it's kind of pre the show, which is great because it's giving you more backstory on all of the characters. So yeah, it's a surprise, but I'm happy to see it there for sure, because I think it's great. And I will say that I remember when this book came out, I was kind of a little, whatever. I kind of brushed it off a little bit because I was like what? Who cares? Like silly kid cartoon before I had even watched it. And I'm glad that I picked it up because I really do enjoy it.
I picked up the variant that's the Amazing Fantasy 15 homage. That's the one I have. So I actually don't have this one. I will have to double check. Maybe I did. I'm not even sure anymore. But one of the things that, like I said, I was surprised when I was doing the scorecard because, again, everything has a point system. And with the point system, you get your #1. When I did the scorecard and I ranked the numbers, everything was getting their points. And lo and behold, this had the highest number. And I was, like I tell you, I was gladly surprised by it, where it wasn't never #1 during the week, but because it was always consistently in the list, it was able to be the underdog, and that's perfect for a world of Spider-Man. So there you have it. The #1 book for the month of February, according to Izzyverse, is Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man #1 with a scorecard rating of 543 points. Wow, indeed. That was awesome. That was definitely awesome.
And I do have that cover as well. I have the AF-15 homage as well. I think I have 2 copies of like one of each of #1.
Yeah. I'm still kind of shocked by it, I'll be honest. It's to me, it's like it's a complete shocker that it ended up being #1. That's it. Let's go back to the chat, say what's up to some people that just jumped in. What, Mr. 10K? Fix those errors this time. So far, we're errorless. So far. We're 1 for 1.
Now you did it.
We're 1 for 1, right? And we got a new member in our group. Nerdy Geek has made the group. We got to give Nerdy Geek some love here. So let's see. Where is that list? Welcome to the Rat Pack. You don't want that.
You got to pull in the a Rat video, like the band Rat.
Oh, get the yeah, but then we won't get monetized because
Oh yeah, right.
Yeah. Jungle Barbarian card. No, I said Jungle Barbarian. Barbarian Kung Fu. I sold that recently for $20. He was referring to the Spawn book. So good, $20 is great. What is up, JSS Brooklyn? Good evening. All right. Awesome. What a great fun book. It is. It really is. All right. So now we're going to take a look at a list that's not a list I made. So I didn't make this list. We're going to look at the top performing comics, new releases that came out in the month of February, which books were the highest selling books. It has nothing to do with how good the book really is. It was just the top performing books. So we'll look at it now with the players of the month. So we got the players of the month for the month of February. We got a lot of books here that last month were in the same list. However, there are some new books in the list and some that kind of fell off. So let's go ahead and take a look at these books for this month, starting with a new book that's on this list, and that's X-Men 11. This book came out from Marvel Comics. It was released on February 12th. The ratings that you are seeing on this list are coming from League of Comic Geeks. So 763 people rated it a 4.0, which is very positive. Fair market value of this book is still at $4, and there are currently 9 known variants in existence. You read X-Men 11. Tell me what you thought.
So to go back one issue, X-Men 10 is probably one of the best books I've read of the year so far. And I would even put it above Ultimate Spider-Man, which is saying a lot for a single issue.
Wow.
So it kind of built off of that. The art's been consistent.
Mm-hmm.
The story was good. It kind of carries over from issue 10 with a little bit of fallout from that one. And yeah, I pick up this book every month. This is an X-Men book that it's a keeper for me.
Cool. Yeah, I know the X-Men books have not been hitting so well lately, but this is one that seems to have been doing well. The other one is Uncanny. Am I right?
Yep. Yeah. I think they've canceled a few of them. Exceptional, NYX, and X Force or Factor. Who knows? I've canceled all those ones as well. They just weren't that good.
Yeah. Okay. Let's take a look at number 9. Transformers 17. Believe it or not, last month it was also number 9. So number 16 was number 9. This one features the first appearance of, what was his name again? Do you remember? Shredhead. And this came out for Image Comics. It was also released on February 12th. Very positive was the rating of a 4.3 with 650 reviewers. Fair market value still at $4. But be careful. There are 19 known variants for this book.
Yeah, and I will say that none of those 19 variants that I know of have Shredhead on the cover. So watch for his first cover appearance in one of the next issues, and maybe pick that one up if that's your thing. But this was a good issue too. I read this. You know, Daniel Warren Johnson. It's got Transformers. It's the art. We know about this book. It's good. Just you should be reading it.
All right, let's take a look at number 8. Batman 157. This is from DC Comics. It was released February 5th. This one's got a lower rating of a 3.8, but it was mostly positive from 852 reviews. Fair market value still at $5. And known variants, there's 6 in existence right now. What's your thoughts on Batman? Because isn't this the final issue before we get some Hush?
Yeah, exactly. So I think that the story suffered a little bit because of that, because they knew that Hush 2 was coming up. So this kind of ends the last creative team type of thing. And so I think it was a little bit quick, but I have been really enjoying Batman. I think I like Detective a little bit better right now, but it was a good read. And, you know, that's warranted. 3.8. That's about where I would have put it too.
Okay. Awesome. Number 7. Absolute Wonder Woman number 5, also from DC Comics. This book recently came February 26th, so the fact that it came in so high when it's just a couple of weeks ago is not that bad. This got a 4.5, which is exceptional, and that's from 1,450 reviewers. Fair market value of this book's at $4, and known variants, there are 7.
Oh, Izzy, this book, I don't know what I can say more about it that I haven't already said, but it is so good. The art, Sherman's art inside is amazing. The A covers have been good. The variants have been good. The story is amazing. There's a part in this story that when I was reading, and I was just kind of, I went back and read it again because it was just so good, so well written. I'm thoroughly enjoying this. This has definitely taken the top place for me in the absolute books, without a doubt. There's no doubt in my mind.
Yeah, Absolute Wonder Woman is a welcome surprise. In fact, both Wonder Woman books are welcome surprises, because the stories are good, the art is good, the writing's good, makes you want to come back to see more. This is definitely worth it.
Yeah, I would
Let's take a
totally
look
agree. You're right.
Mhm.
It was a surprise for sure, but very welcome. I agree, 100%.
Let's take a look at number 6. That's Ultimate Spider-Man number 14 from Marvel Comics. This book was also released on February 26th. This one got the rating of 4.7, which is also exceptional, out of 1,510 reviews. Fair market value is still $5, and there are 7 known variants. Another book, whenever you throw a Craven story with Spider-Man, how is it that they're always good, but yet you can't make a good Craven movie?
Because you don't put Spider-Man in it. That's how you do. That's how you wreck that. This one, again, this is a great list because it pretty much, if you weren't a comic reader, you just go out and get the 10 books on this list, and you're going to read some great stuff. And this one, again, really great story. The Ultimate Universe. The last book I read, I think Ultimates from this week. There's only 8 months left, so we're looking at 8 issues. So things are going to start to ramp up. And there is a special coming out. Watch for that. An Ultimate multiverse kind of crossover with Miles, with all these new characters. So, and this book has there's tons of stuff that happens in it, and it has a very, very cool ending.
Awesome. All right, let's take a look at number 5. We're halfway through this list. Ultimates number 9 from Marvel Comics. This book was released on February 5th. This also received an exceptional grading of a 4.5 from 1,557 reviewers. Fair market value is $4, and it only has 3 known variants. Kind of a bit of a shocker with the variants, right?
Yeah, this one was good too. I just read issue 10. I liked this issue better than 10. The newest one, when I read it, I felt like I missed something. But this was a good read. I like the introduction of all the new characters, and this was the introduction of Ultimate Luke Cage. So it's kind of worth it for that. And again, we're slowly starting to build, like, realistically, we're in the final act almost of all these books. So it's in my opinion, we're just getting to the good stuff.
Yeah, and they just recently announced that Miles is going to get involved in the Ultimate Universe in some way. So we're already having some level of an incursion happening in the Ultimate Universe. I thought that was actually pretty soon. Yeah. So be on the lookout. Now it looks like they're starting to build in, obviously ramping up for Secret Wars movies. So this is a good opportunity to kind of like start that process. So that's number 5, the Ultimates. Let's take a look at number 4. Ultimate Wolverine number 2 from Marvel Comics. This book was released on February 19th. This received a score of a 4.2, very positive, out of 1,430 reviewers. Fair market value is $5. Known variant, 6. I think there might be more than 6, to be honest, but that's what's been recorded.
It seemed like it, yeah. And this one was a really good read too. I like what they're doing with this character. I hope that they keep on with the mysterious part. That was always the coolest thing about Wolverine. And I think a key to his popularity is that you kind of didn't know. You got little tiny tidbits of information, and that was over the course of like a year. And I hope they do that with this new Wolverine too, because it is fun.
Yeah, and this Wolverine's even more mysterious than the original.
Yeah.
Because the original, we kind of knew a little bit about this. This one, you practically know nothing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Great. All right. Let's take a look at number 3, and that is Absolute Superman number 4 from DC Comics. This book was released February 5th. This received a score of 4.3, which is very positive, out of 2,028 reviewers. Fair market value of this book is still at $5. Known variants, there are 6.
Yeah, the Superman trend is heating up with the movie coming out. This was a good read. Again, I would put Superman as my second. Like, Absolute Batman kind of fell off.
Mhm.
Like for me anyway, out of the top, it went to top 3 of these books. It's good. The art is always good in it. The story's cool. It's got a cool twist with his costume and everything. And they keep giving you a tiny little bit more every issue with Superman, more so than the others. That's neat.
Yeah. And we're starting to learn a little bit more about what exactly happened to Krypton, which is good that they're actually revealing that information now. A book worth checking out. I think all the Absolute books are worth checking out, to be completely honest. And we're getting Flash, we're getting Martian Manhunt, and we're going to be getting Green Lantern. That's going to add to it. So we'll see how it goes. Let's see what came in number 2. One World Under Doom from Marvel Comics. This was released on February 12th. This received a score of 4.3, which is very positive, out of 1,410 reviewers. Fair market value of this book is $5, and there are 16 known variants.
Now, not that Marvel would ever watch this, but I would say that if you want to do a Doom character well, do what they've been doing in the comics. I don't remember a time when a character has been consistently written very well across multiple titles. Doesn't matter what title Doom is in. And in this one, it is so well done. There's a great twist in it that Doom gets what he wants, but he doesn't have to flex anything to do it. He just outwits the other people. And it's really cool. I definitely recommend picking up this book. This One World Under Doom is shaping up to be really cool if it continues on from this first issue.
It's awesome. Doom is just one of those comics. Doom is a character that is complex. He's a villain, but at the same time, you kind of get his motives. You get what I'm saying?
Oh,
he's a
100%.
villain that makes sense, and that's the worst type of villain.
And that is 100% on display in this comic. Like it's really good what he does, and you agree with him. Like he gets them. It's
you
great.
You can't help it. It's like, yeah, but yeah. It's wrong. So
yeah, it was good.
That's number 2. At number 1, no surprise, Absolute Batman issue number 5. This came out for DC Comics. The release date of this book was February 12th. This book received a score of 4.3, very positive, out of 2,305 ratings. Fair market value of this book is $5, and there are 8 known variants. We got one more issue to the final, which should be released this coming week, tell you the truth. Yep. What's your thoughts on the Absolute Batman arc so far?
I think that we both agree that it had a ton of momentum, and then they had that guest artist issue, and that just took the wins out of the Absolute Batman sales.
I agree.
I enjoy it. It's good. But that issue really kind of it dropped it for me. Like I still enjoy it. I still read it. I think it's good. The character is cool, and you get new information. But that one issue really kind of hurt it a lot.
It hurt it because, like you said, it paused that momentum that you had, where everything was so bombastic. Everything was just excitement, insanity, and then you had kind of like this low moment. Nothing against the artist. He wasn't the greatest artist. I'll admit to that. But we wanted Dragata. We want to see Dragata's work. That's one of the reasons why we were picking it up, because everything he was doing was bigger than larger than life. When this one was like, Yeah. And it kind of threw me off, because when I got issue 4 and I began to read it, I kind of just stopped. And I just said, I'll get to it when I get to it. That's not how I felt about the other ones.
Yeah, and I'll agree with that, what you said about the artists. Like, I really think of it as, in my imagination anyway, something happened and they had to get somebody kind of quickly, and they probably didn't have a lot of time to get their best work done. And that's what that's what I want to believe anyway, because that's what it seemed like when you looked at it.
Yeah. Well, it's still the highest selling book in the month of February, and that's Absolute Batman number 5. That came in number 1. We hope you enjoyed this list. This list was provided to me by, I'm trying to remember where I got the list from. Oh yeah, ICV2. Go check them out. This is You get to see what the sales are. We don't have the actual sales numbers. They don't give us that, but they do tell us who came in first place. And this one was the one that came in number one. At no surprise, really.
Yeah.
I think Doom was a good, pleasant surprise because I didn't think it was going to come ranked that high, but I think the hype for Doom is so there that anything that has Doom's name on it is going to sell.
Yeah, I totally agree.
All right. 2 down. Let's go back to the chat because I know I've been silent for a little bit. We got the Grizz MD, a surprise to be sure, but a welcome one. He's referring to Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. It was definitely a great surprise. And how come you always get greeted before I do?
It's the green.
It's the green, or is the Canadian?
Could be the Canadian. Yeah.
It could be the Canadian, right? What's going on? TM Nerdy. See, he greets me afterwards. You see, that's how it is. All right. I saw that there will be an Archie's. Wow. That's pretty cool.
Well, Jughead is basically, that's those characters. So that makes sense.
All right. 158 will definitely be. Oh, yeah. Will be on the future list. It might be number one next week, next month. It's quite possible it might be number one. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, it has a great shot. The hype is there for that for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolute awesome read. Of course, he's referring to Wonder Woman. Let's see, make Craven a vegetarian, and I'll do it. What's up, Rich? Comic Caps collectible. Richie Rich. Premiere says live. Oh, we're live. All right. That's how I felt about Michael Turner's run on Super. Yeah. I know what you're talking about. Michael Turner's run was so iconic. And then you had the next guy that came out of it. It was like, but what are you going to do? That's one of those situations you can't really do nothing. But I think the problem with Absolute Batman was more of that. You just cut it right in the middle. Right?
Yeah.
You couldn't just let it be, So that was part of it. And yes, it's the Canadian. Wow. So let's take a moment here and remind everybody that we do have a show that happens, on Mondays. So if this is the first time you're watching, thank you for watching. On Monday, we do our regular live show that starts somewhere between 6 and 6:30, depending on how cover price is. It's the Spec Trending show where we go over what's trending. We do a creator spotlight. We do a look back at 30, 60, 90 on the top books. And we go over what's coming up for the new comic book day. Today's a little special because we are going over the top February books. So go check out that show. That happens Mondays, 6 p.m., 6 to 6:30 Eastern time. Depends, right? It depends. That's what we say. Right.
And that's in 3 days, Izzy. Only 3 days from now.
And I haven't even begun to start getting ready for that one. I'm like, I'm not. Anyway, we're going to do our next segment here, which I think is a really fun segment to look at, and that's what we called Newly Slabbed. The top CGC submissions for the month of February 2025. We have some repeats, but we also have some newbies. What's your thoughts on the slabs from last month, and then what we're going to look into in the next couple of minutes?
Oh, just from last month, it just was so cool to see the numbers of these slabs that are getting submitted for these titles. Mm-hmm. It just lets you know that, you don't have to be any kind of mathematician to figure out that CGC is doing pretty well.
Yeah, I know. But I'm curious to see what's going to happen now with what's, and I'm not going to get political here. This is not that platform, but with the tariffs that are going on, it's going to affect PSA. So I'm certain it'll eventually affect CGC. in some way.
Yeah, and you know what? I've submitted to both CBCS and CGC, and they do their return shipping. I'm in Canada, in case anybody didn't know, and they do their return shipping differently. CGC, it's kind of you pay all at once, and so for your US, anybody watching in the US, it's $50 if you do a submission to get it back to you is the cheapest way you can get it back for 25 books, and internationally it's 150 US. So it's $100 difference, and CBCS, they do the shipping, but it's much cheaper, but you always get a bill later from the shipping company for the customs, which can be anywhere from $15 to $60. You just don't know what it's going to be. So it'll be interesting to see. Personally, I believe that CGC could easily eat that cost in the amount that they're charging for us to get our books internationally. There's a lot of wiggle room there that to me is just right into their pockets. CBCS, because they step back from it, they'll just let the person absorb the cost when they get their shipping bill later, which is going to be higher. So it will hurt coming from Canadian if you're buying from that place. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see.
All right, cool. Thanks for sharing. All right, let's take a look at the top books that were slabbed for the month of February. And the number one at number 10 is Venom, Lethal Protector number 1. This book was from 1993 from Marvel Comics. Currently, now, there's 24,395 books. Last month, we covered it, and there was 24,136. That is a difference of 259 books that were added to the census. That is an increase of 1.1%.
Amazing. Like, again, I think the best thing about this, one of the best things about this segment is that it kind of lets you know, it reminds you of patience.
You're right.
You know what I mean? Like, there's basically 25,000 graded copies of this book. If you're looking for it, which it's a great book. I love this book. The series is awesome. If you haven't read it, read it. It's his first solo series. But, you know, it's out there. Just be patient. You'll find it. It'll come to you. Don't go crazy buying, 9.9s for tens of thousands of dollars or anything like that.
I agree with you. I think this gives you perspective from what's out there, what really exists. The fact that 259 books were submitted says a lot. Yeah.
And that, I mean, again, do the math on that. At least $25 a submission, and that's one book, right?
Yeah. And this is number 10.
Yeah, exactly.
The other one had more submissions. So let's take a look at our next one. That's number 9, and that is Spider-Man number 1, the Silver Edition, which came out in 1990 from Marvel Comics. Currently, there's 19,444 copies. The number last month was 19,174. That's a difference of 270 books that were submitted, an increase of 1.4%.
This one's really interesting to me because there's so many copies out there. It's kind of like an X-Men 1 scenario. There's so many out there. It just amazes me that, why send it in? Because it's not a value. It's not a costly book for you to get in a 9.8 already. And the margin on it is very small, realistically. And this variant, the Silver Edition, isn't like a scarce one or anything like that. It's just interesting. I love the book. I think it's great. It's classic cover. And I have at least 5 copies of this book. But just always interesting that 270 people decided, I got to get this thing graded.
Yeah. And, it is a Silver Edition. So there is some rarity is not probably the right word to call it, right? But what it is a book that, based on what we're seeing here, is close to 20,000 copies exist at minimum. Minimum. That means there's a lot more out there. It may not be the original or the regular one that came out, but it's a nice cover. I will admit it looks nice in the slab.
Yeah.
I will admit to that. Looks nice in the slab, but just like Venom, there's a lot.
Patience.
Mhm. Let's take a look at number 8. Number 8, another book we talked about last month, and that's Wolverine #1. This came out in 1982 from Marvel Comics. Currently, there's 30,000 copies, 30,703 copies from 30,406. That's a difference of 297, just 3 shy from 300. That's an increase of 1%.
Yeah.
This is one of those books. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is a classic cover. You know, this is a book that I just recently bought. I understand why people want to get this graded. There's more of a margin involved in this one, for one. If you've got raw copies of it, you can easily make more money if it's graded. So I totally get that part of it. And, you know, it looks great on a wall.
It's one of those books that, ideally speaking, you probably think that it's a rare book. Once it's from 82. It's a limited series. It was before Wolverine was super popular, but yet there's a lot of copies of this book.
You're 100% right, Izzy. Like, I hadn't thought of it like that before. That just made me realize, like, I probably bought this a month ago, and I went into a shop that I don't go to all the time, but I go to it, like, you know, probably a few times a month. And they had all 4 up on the wall, and I didn't own any of them. I just have a trade of it. And I felt like I should really get these, like, before those are gone. Like, who knows when they're going to come up again. But then you see these numbers. It's like, you know,
it will come up again.
Yeah, it's going to come up again.
It's going to come up again. And it's just, like I said, it's an iconic cover. Frank Miller cover when he knew how to draw right. Sorry, no pun intended, but I'm just saying. And it's amazing what the print run will be of this book. It has to be high. But I'm shocked that it is high because, like I said, it's a limited series in 82 for a character who hasn't really been tested. This is his first time being tested in his own series, where beforehand he was just an X-Men character. Now he's in his own series, and it's taking a risk, but it was a risk that paid off at the end.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a ton of these books out there. The print run was probably very high.
Let's go with number 7. Speaking of print runs, Marvel Superhero Secret War #8. This book also came out in 84 from Marvel Comics. There's 32,970 in the census. That's from 32,667. Difference is 303. That's an increase of 0.9%. People are getting ready. That black costume's coming.
Oh, yeah. Iconic cover. And again, we've talked about this book lots of times. Like, I bought this when it was coming out, and I love the Secret Wars story. I really wish they would do this story rather than the other one's good. You know, I agree, it is good, but this one to me is just has such a special place in my brain that I'd love to see this even animated with really good animation and voice acting would be great.
I can't wait, because even though they've never made that announcement that the black suit's coming, that announcement has not been made. The spec on it is so high that it will be a letdown if they don't do it.
Do you think that, in your opinion, like in the MCU, like Kevin Feige in his office, that they have meetings where they have that kind of planned out? They must know that all we want is to see, you know, Tom Holland as Spider-Man, or Spider-Man, any of them, as, you know, getting that symbiote for the first time, or having Eddie Brock from, you know, the Tom Hardy movies meet up. Like, when they showed that little teaser at the end, I'm like, oh yeah, that's what we're all waiting for.
But the problem with Spider-Man is the whole Sony effect. What's Sony's getting from it? What does Sony want to do with it? They're not going to let it go. No matter how many times people will say they are, they're not going to let it go. You're not going to give up $1 billion franchise. You're going to still cough up some garbage movies just so you can hold on to rights. and then you make that money back when you do the Spider-Man movie, when you do the Spider-Verse movies. They don't care. Those losses that they have from Madam Web and Craven and Morbius, they don't care about that.
Yeah.
Because they're making it all back when they do a Spidey Homecoming, or where they do a No Way From Home, when they do Spider-Verse. They're just making that money back. Could they make more money? Yes. But they don't think that way, unfortunately. I just think that yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. I was just going to say, I totally agree with you. And it's one of those things, it's the human factor of these movies that kind of brings me down a little bit. Like, look at, all the X-Men movies, and you can see where the first one starts out and there's great care about the comic characters, and the story is kind of well written and everything. And then, characters become more popular and the actor is more popular, so they get more money. And because they're getting more money, they get more of the screen time. And I think Hugh Jackman did a great job as Wolverine. But it's not the Wolverine movie in the X-Men stories. It should be the X-Men movie. And I just
It was always going to happen, though. That was always going to happen, regardless of whether it's Hugh Jackman or not. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
He was the most popular X-Men, so as being the most popular X-Men, what are you doing? I do admit, when they went with First Class, that was taking a risk. Even if they had him in a little cameo, that was still taking a risk. It paid off for them, but they eventually had to bring him back sooner or later. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there you have it. Going back to this book here, I look at this one and then I think of Amazing 252. And even though this book came out several months later, this one seems to be more beloved. Why is that?
It's interesting because they're both like iconic. One's the homage. Like, this one has just been homaged so many times. I don't know. I don't know why. I think it may be the kind of the shock of the story and how it happened, and everybody knows kind of that's the history. That's where it came from. I don't know. They're both should be in every Spider-Man fan's collection, though, for sure.
Yeah, this is one of those rare occasions that the first appearance is not more important than the origin. All right. Let's go to number 6. And that's a new book, and that's Deadpool Wolverine #1. This book came out in 2025 from Marvel Comics. 330 copies were submitted in the month of February. That there is no increase because there were 0 beforehand. Speaking of Wolverine, throwing some Deadpool in that.
It's crazy. 330 copies. And like, but why, Izzy? Why? Like, you can buy this book for less than cover price probably right now. Like,
well, that's the submissions. That's just the submissions there.
I know. Like, what is this book going to be? The value of this book going to be even in a 9.8? And is it going to be $70 maybe?
Who's to say? It's a book that I don't even think $70 is. I think that's too high. I think at the end of the day, it'll probably be $50 at max, maybe even lower.
Yeah, I would say these submissions are from mostly people that are in the speculator end of it and just looking to have this show at a con and sell it to somebody walking by. Then their kid yells, "Daddy, I want Deadpool and Wolverine."
Yeah, I agree. There's nothing special about the book. There really isn't. And like we said, it's just it's now been submitted. And in that submissions, you got 330 copies. So with that said, poof. Number 5, Absolute Batman, the 3rd printing. This is the Akira homage. Bear in mind, this is not the New York Comic Con homage, which is in color. This is the black and white edition. This one had 360 copies. Rewind. There's currently 360 copies now in the census, as opposed to 15 copies 30 days ago. That's an increase of 345 books, which is an increase of, get this, 2,300%.
Yeah, and this one I hadn't seen this cover before. I don't think. I love a good.
Oh, really? You haven't seen that cover?
No, I love a good Akira homage cover. So I think it looks really good.
Yeah.
And this one, as opposed to the last issue, this one I understand why people are submitting it. It looks great. It's not a regular cover. It's going to be a classic. It's a homage. This is a no-brainer as a submission to me, whereas Deadpool and Wolverine is the complete opposite.
It's a great one. I personally have the color one because when I was in New York Comic Con, I bought 2 copies, one for me and one to send out to flip. And it was just one of those books that I had to have. I love Akira. I think with Absolute Batman and then this image, it's perfect.
How do you like the color one or the black and white one better?
I like both. It's hard to decide. The reason why the black and white works because it fits to that whole manga thing, right? Because the whole manga aesthetic where you open up a manga, it's in black and white for the most part. So that's part of it. I think that the color one looks just as good though. So it's hard to decide. I have to look at the color one once again to make that decision.
I wish I could remember right now, but I just went through the previews and I want to say it was Image, but don't quote me on it. There is another Akira homage coming up that's in previews right now. If people are
there's a red Sonya that was just done.
That's it. I think that's the one.
It was just done. And there's plenty of these. There's plenty of Akira homages, but this one stood out because it is Absolute Batman. It works. It fits with the story as well. So that was number 5. But before we go to our next one, I just got to say what's up to a couple of people that just jumped in, starting with Tate Prime. My man, what's going on? I hope you're having a beautiful day as well, even though you're probably telling that to TM, not me. It will be $60 3 months. So he's making it higher. I'm saying like $40. He also likes the black and white, and he says he needs this book. Well, if you want it graded, there's 360 that are graded right now. And we got John Comics with Kids. What's up? Thank you so much. I really do appreciate it. Let's see what else here. FY, that absolute will.
I don't think there's enough room on that seat for him.
You know what I'm saying? It's possible. All right. It looks nice with the. Yeah, it does look nice. All right. With the red. He said it. I knew he meant the red with in the lettering. And we got Megan. You're on. Absolute needs a Purple Rain homage. We have that already. It exists.
So actually, it's funny that he mentioned that because I just recorded a little series review of Deceased, and that's where that cover is. So there is one in there. So watch for that, or you can just go look it up. It's I think it's in the latest one, War of the Undead Gods or Undead something. That the latest volume of Deceased has that Purple Rain homage in it.
Okay. All right. So that's number 5. Let's take a look at number 4, and that's Spawn number 1 from Image Comics in 1992. This book currently has 35,512 copies in the census. That's up from 35,161 with a difference of 351 copies. That is a 1% increase. Another book. There's a lot out there, but everybody wants to get their Spawn graded.
Yeah. And you know what? I am going to get mine graded, Izzy, but you know why I'm getting mine graded. If you remember, because mine is a newsstand.
Ooh,
so I'll get that one graded. But I would definitely, Spawn 1 is one of those books that if I could buy for less than $100 a 9.8 already graded and save the headache in a new case, I would pay for it, no problem, just to have it, because it's a classic historical comic book that, you know, there was a lot happening at that time when it came out, and with Todd McFarlane and his own company, it's a pretty important book, I think, even though there's millions of them out there.
I agree. It's a book that today people still talk about, people still want, but there's still a desire for Spawn number 1. So even though there's millions of copies, literally. It's one of those books that, even though there's millions of copies out there, there's only 35 in the census. Think about that.
Yeah.
There's a lot out there.
And any Canadian people or international that are watching that are kind of missing some issues, I just saw on Instagram that Capcom, a Canadian store, just got in boxes and boxes and boxes of a run of Spawn from 1 to, I think, 170 or something like that. So if you're missing any, that might be a good spot to get them.
Yeah. I think I'm going to have to get me a new Spawn #1. I do have a copy, but I want to get a better quality copy because mine was a reader copy. So I will pick this up eventually. It's a $25 book, so I'm pretty sure I could find it for a really good price.
I think every store has a copy of this or multiple copies.
They probably do. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Ultimate Universe 1 year in #1. This is the spoiler Capchulo variant that came out this year. There's 403 copies in the census now. That's an increase of 51 from last month. That means 352 were submitted. That's an increase of 690.2%.
We've talked about this before. I'm still surprised that in all of the lists and the things people talk about, that those Marvel Comic Present books have not shown up in any list because of this series. I'm just surprised by it. I think it's a great book, and we talked about this. It's been in so many lists. We knew this was going to be heavily graded. I'm just surprised that the hype isn't a little bit higher about it. That's all.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with Absolute Batman, you would think it would be kind of like neck and neck with Absolute Batman. And it's good. It's not bad. There's some mystery to him that people like. It's a nice homage, and the other books are doing well as well. And this is this is technically the first cover appearance of the character. I don't know. I just don't know. I don't get it personally.
Yeah.
So there you have it. Ultimate Universe 1 year in #1, the spoiler variant. Let's take a look at number 2. Woohoo! X-Men #1, 1991 from Marvel Comics. There was 24,234 copies in the census today. That's from 23,887. That's an increase of 358 copies that were submitted. That is a 1.5% increase.
Let me ask you, Izzy. So, do you think that a 9/8 of this book, any of the covers, like except for the really weird misprinted ones, will ever have any value, say, over $200?
No.
I don't think so either.
There's too many copies.
I know. I would like to own, I just thought of it when I saw this cover. Sure, I'd like to have all of the covers, the main ones, in a 9/8. That would be kind of cool. You put them all together or whatever.
You line them up.
Yeah, but it would be for personal reasons. It would never be for value reasons.
But you said it best. It'll be for personal reasons. And that's why this book is being submitted so many times.
Yeah.
It's being submitted because people want to have that lineup of slabs. This is a perfect book for slabbing.
Yeah.
It really is, because you guarantee to have a reader copy somewhere.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about that part.
Yeah.
And then you could get all the books signed up. No brainer to me.
Do you think that some part of these submissions, I don't know the breakdown, I don't know if you noticed it, but do you think there's some people submitting like 25 of these at a time to try to get that 9/9 or 10?
Oh, absolutely. I think that's absolutely happening. It's a hard book to get at a high grade because the paper quality is very flimsy. It's good quality paper, I'll say that, but it's flimsy. So it could be easily dented, even among transit, I'm sure.
Yeah, and I don't know how many of them had that gatefold cover, if it was all of them or just one, but even that, because of that fold, I know that that line of the fold is almost always kind of like frayed or worn or whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, there's so many that you don't even know. There, I'm sure a 9.9 or even a 10 will pop up if it has it already. I haven't looked at the census recently to see that for sure. I'll make sure I'll do that for next month because I'm pretty sure it'll be in the list next month too.
Yeah, it's surprising, like like for the month, the whole month, out of all of the comics, this one is the most submitted, almost.
Yep,
You know what
it's
I
the
mean?
second most submitted.
Second most submitted. It's just that's a surprise to me.
It's
And it
also
will be.
it's one of the highest selling books, like even today. So when we do trending books or we do the top performing sales, what we look at is we look at the books that sold the most for over the month, but they don't necessarily do the numbers justice, because if that was the case, we're always going to see X-Men #1, we're always going to see Spider-Man #1, we're always going to see Spawn #1, Venom, Leaf. Those are books that you're always going to see on top 10 selling books because they always sell. One, because they're inexpensive because there's so many copies, and two, because people actually do want them. So you have to weed them out of this list. For example, one of the things I do from this list, so that you know, and these numbers here are not exactly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's because there are retailers that submit a bundle of books at a time. So you do see that. I remember talking to you when we first did this list, how we saw bundles of books that being submitted, and they're being submitted by a retailer. So we count those out. Those are not included. So the submissions that we are showing here are customer submissions that happen. Or if they are retailers, but they are based off back issues.
Yeah.
So not from new books that, okay, we're going to send out 500 copies. We have to take those out. So we do that as well.
I think that's better anyway. And we had talked about that. And because that's, to me, I'd rather see a list that contains a book that I might be able to go buy rather than, retailer exclusive that, I may never even have a chance to own.
Yeah. All right. You ready for number one?
Yep.
It's at no surprise for the second month in a row. Absolute Batman #1, 2024 TC Comics. 1,952 are in the census. That is an increase of 1,387. That means 565 books were submitted, a 40.7% increase. This book, you know what's funny? I'm thinking about submitting my books tomorrow. So I'll be the same thing. I'll do the same thing with this book. People want to have this book graded.
Oh man, just imagine, a giant wave of absolute Batman slabs. It's a tsunami approaching everyone, and in a month or two, when all of these clear, the market is just going to be flooded with these books. And the only chance you have of having any kind of value is if you happen to get a 9.9 or
it exists already.
Or
there's
10.
2 that I know of.
Yeah, that's it.
I know of 2.
And it's a tough grade because this is a flimsy, floppy book.
Yep. The term floppy, you said it best. There you have it. Number 1 for the second month in a row. Absolute Batman #1. We hope you enjoy this one. Please let us know in your comments what you think about these slabs. And what do you think is next month's #1? Do you think Absolute Batman will come back, or do you think another book will take that list? Who's to say? I'm pretty sure there are some contenders that are going to come in for next month, but we'll find out when the time comes. And with that said, let's take that off. And let's go ahead and say what's up to a couple of people that just jumped in as well. Let's see here. So glad people are grading the Spawn. One Lord only knows there's a few copies. And with that being said, he wants a 9.8. Of course you do, Tate. What's up, Jean Malo? Good evening, my good friend. And now he's looking at X-Men #1. Look at the face. Green face. Line them up. Fill my pellet rifle. What's up, Cam Bell? I love that name, Cam Bell. What's going on? Let's see. Camp. No freaking way. Good to see him. Oh, now you're bringing people here. He's finally get to see a live show. Thank you for making the live show. And Jay knows the way. 9.6 breaks heart because everyone wants an 8 and nobody wants a 6. You are correct.
So true.
His brother is that. I like your guys' deep dive. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Campbell. I like saying your name, Camp Bell. You know, this is not cowbell. You know what I'm saying? Got some more cowbell. Woo-hoo. That was fun.
Yeah, that was a good one.
That was a good one. You ready for the big one?
Yeah, let's do it. This is
the big one.
Crazy.
This is the big one, guys. We're about to do the Chartbusters. We're an hour and 16 minutes in. Can we get the Chartbusters done in a 2-hour period? I like to say we probably won't. But it's going to be worth it.
Yeah,
because there's some
so
good ones. Here's what we're going to be talking about: the bangers that were sold in the month of February. There's some really good ones. So let's start off the Chartbusters to go collect Chartbusters list. I just love that music, right? We talked about it last month. It's like smooth jazz.
You know, it warms you up for the chaos to come.
Oh, there's some chaos, definitely. So it wasn't as crazy as last month. I'll say that. But there are some books here that you got to say to yourself, holy moly, guacamole. Speaking of guacamole, I wonder if I got guacamole. I got some tacos later. Anyway, let's see. Let's go ahead and take a look at the Chartbusters, and we're going to start things off with the modern books. We're going to start with Modern Age, and with Modern Age, you get more of the rare books. When we get to the Golden Age, it's more of those classic books, the blue chip books and things like that. But with Modern Age, you get some signature series, you get some sketches. And let's take a look at this first one. Spawn 350. This is the employee edition. This came out for Image Comics in 2024. This sold for $5,000 in an eBay auction on February 24th. It came in 5th place. This one was signed to Andy by Todd McFarlane.
Wonder if it was Andy that bought it.
Oh, it was given to Andy.
Well, I know, but I wonder if it was an Andy that bought it as well.
Oh, that is quite possible. I can tell you one thing: it was either Andy that sold there or Andy's girlfriend that didn't care about Andy anymore.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll show him too. I'm gonna sell his book for $5,000. Right?
I don't know, to be honest, if I would ever part with a Todd McFarlane signed book, especially. I would have more connection to it if, like, he signed it in front of me, type of thing. That book I wouldn't get rid of for sure.
So we covered this when we talked about Todd McFarlane on Monday, in which the replay is going to come out tomorrow. If you guys don't haven't had a chance to see it, he personalized them. So there's really a extremely small amount of books. Spawn 350, the employer edition, there's probably 50 copies.
Yeah.
And they were all personalized to employees. So you're not going to find another Andy unless there's 2 Andys.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah. Can you imagine in the office, you're like Todd McFarlane's assistant, assistant, or you work with them very closely, like every day. So it's kind of like, whatever. And I would just constantly have like comics underneath something. I just need a signature here. Like I'd be having them sign like.
Well, yeah, and it's like, imagine you get a book from Todd and he misspells your name.
Yeah.
Like it's Andy with an I.
Or what would be even cooler too is like he's doing his signature and you grab the book so it messes it up.
We're terrible people. So there you have it. That came at number 5. Number 4, Harley Quinn and Suicide Squad April Fool's Special. This is a Del Auto sketch variant that came out in 2016 for DC Comics. This sold for $6,000 in an eBay auction on February 14th, Valentine's Day. Now, why is it so important? It's a signed and sketch Gabriel Del Auto. My goodness, you got a beautiful image that's a 9.8, and it is signed and graded.
It's amazing. Like, it's just the amount of work that it would take. And I wonder if he did this like at the desk type of thing. This seems like it would be something that would be done like as a commission.
Oh, this was a commission. This was definitely a commission. But
it looks
my
great.
Goodness, this is a 1-in-1. The book in itself is worth nothing. It's the sketch, right? It's the sketch that has value. And
exactly.
Wow, what a gorgeous sketch! $6,000, man. Guy bought it, paid the money. I wonder what he paid Del Auto for it.
Yeah, that's. I'm always curious about the cost of like modern artists and their originals because so much is done digitally. I often wonder like that market of like a Nakayama, like what does it cost for a original?
Yeah, this is just pure beautiful. But the person had to sell it, and they sold it for $6,000. I think the person that got it for a great deal. This book will probably be worth more in the future.
For sure.
All right, let's take a look at number 3. Betty Page Comics number 1. This came out in 1996 for Dark Horse Comics. $10,000 on eBay on February 2nd. This is a JSA sign, so it's authenticated. Gilbert Hernandez, Jamie Hernandez, Betty Page, and Dave Stevens. It is a 4 times signature.
That's awesome. I personally like these authenticated labels better than the other ones.
They look really good.
Yeah,
I
think
admit.
they look great.
They make it. There's something about them that just makes them look better.
Yeah, they seem to pop more.
So what do you think? $10,000 for 4 signatures.
I mean, Stevens is so hot right now, and to have those other 3 signatures on there too.
Betty Page as well.
Yeah, that's a fan for sure.
So each signature is worth $2,500.
Yeah.
If you had this book, what would you do?
I would sell it immediately.
No, not even a thought.
Don't even have to. Like, I kind of missed the boat on all the Dave Stevens stuff. I appreciate it. I think it looks great, but I've got other fish to fry in my collecting than Dave Stevens books. So if I had them, I would unload them and get a giant-sized X-Men 1 instead.
Yeah, for that same price, you absolutely could get that. Let's take a look at number 2. Wolverine 145, the silver foil variant. This came out in 1999 for Marvel Comics. This sold for $10,000 on eBay February 7th in an auction. This was manufactured without a foil on the cover. We covered this book last month, but this is not the same book. This is a different book that was sold, and it sold for $10,000. I think the other one sold a little bit more.
Yeah, it's interesting that, it's probably when they were doing it. I know they flip-flop on this green label thing, but to me, it just should be a blue label. It's a misprint.
It's a defect.
Yeah.
So that's why it gets the green label, because it's a qualified grade.
Yeah.
But it makes it look better. because his claws weren't gold; they were always silver looking.
Yeah.
So I never understood that either. You know what I'm saying? So so when you see a qualified label which is green, it means that there's some kind of manufacturer defect with the book. It doesn't mean that the book was, was damaged or was restored or anything like that. The book has an error, and with that error makes it more sought after because it makes it unique. And this is one of those books that era makes the book look better.
Yeah.
So that was number 2, Wolverine 145, the silver foil variant. And at number 1 for modern comics, Spawn 185. This is the Botasio sketch variant that came out in 2008 for Image Comics. This sold for $12,000 in a heritage auction on February 25th. This is a Wells Botasio cover and art. It is considered a 1 in 100 variant.
Great cover. 12,000 though. That again, it's a lot for
and a 9.6.
Yeah, a lot for a modern book for sure. But if you're a fan and you want it, well, you pay for it. It's your money, right?
So would you consider this being one of those ghost books as well? Or maybe because there's just a small fraction of them? Because at this time, Spawn wasn't a high seller. It wasn't selling the way it has before or afterwards, right? But it's 185, so Spawn is not doing too good at this time. And they did 1 in 100. There's really not that many in existence.
No, this would be I would call this a pretty rare low print run book for sure.
Mm-hmm. $12,000. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not signed. It's not anything. And it's a 9.6.
Just the book and the 9.6.
Oh, I pronounce his name any way I can. All right. Wow. That is awesome. And that's the modern books, guys. All right. We're going to go into the Copper Age books, but before we do that, let's go see what's up in the chat. I think I left it off at, let's see here.
I'll be right back to do that.
Yeah, go for it. Take a break. So Andy got rid of his toy. I seen the movie. Damn it, Andy. Don't be that guy, Andy. Poor Andy. He needed to make some money, man. That's the whole point. All right. Jean Malone finds the book fire. The Betty Page. What's up, Bobby Delaghetto? How you doing? All right. As I mentioned, I talked to you a little bit about the green label. And yes, Tate, 10K. That's how much. Or you could be referring to my subscriber base at 10K. Who knows? Never mind. I'm definitely doing something wrong. What do you mean, dude? All right. And how do one pronounce Wilds or Wills? Wilds. I like Whaley. Whaleys? And then finally, I got a Botasio sketch cover. I got a Botasio sketch myself. I don't have that one. But guys, as we're waiting for Shane to come back, he's preoccupied right now. I want to remind everybody about a couple of things that's going on. Again, thank you all. We hit that 10K mark. I really appreciate it. It was a lot of work. It took 3.5 years in the making to get it. So I really do appreciate it. And we will be having a 10K show coming up soon. It will be a giveaway show. I'll make the announcement shortly. I'm not sure exactly when, but it'll be in a little bit. Also, if you're in the New York City area, come on down to the Elite Comic 11 Expo. It's their first expo. There's free parking. If you pre-buy the tickets, you still have till tonight to buy the tickets. They're only $11. They'll be $20 at the door. So almost half off for the tickets if you purchase them beforehand. And I'll be hanging out there. I'll be shooting some videos and stuff like that. I may even do a live stream here and there who knows what's going to happen. But go check it out. Go say what's up. It's at St. John's University in Queens. So go check that out. And thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Okay. And Shane's back, guys. So we could get back on to this. Let me make sure I can see the comments here. All right. We're going to go over to Copper Age Chartbusters. These are the books that came out 1985 to 2000. There again, another great list of books. Let's take a look at number 5, the highest selling book. Ha! Who would have guessed it? Spawn number 1, 1991 for Image Comics. This one's special because this one sold for $5,000 on eBay on February 2nd in an auction. We talked about defects and qualified grades. This one's the same thing, which is a manufacturer error, and it did not have the black ink on the cover. So this one was missing the black ink. This is a rarity. That's why it's $5,000.
And I never actually heard of this variant before, so that's cool to see that. I gotta say, if you start to get into the collecting, do a little research into these covers, because a lot of times you can find them listed or in your area and people don't know what they have. And this would be one of those cases where, this comes in and when it came out, they probably didn't even know that it was anything. So just, watch for that.
Yeah. And you know what? Looking at it, you couldn't tell, right? You couldn't tell. It obviously, if you put the two in front of each other, then you'll see it. But by looking at it, it looks fine as is.
Yeah.
Yeah. A 9.4 selling for $5,000. Who would have guessed it?
Yeah. It's like we talked about on Monday about the Spider-Man with the purple lizard, or the different color,
copper and blue.
And then Galacticus being a different color in Secret Wars #1. You got to watch for that too. Those are little interesting things in these books. It's fun.
So when you see, and I said this earlier, when you see a green label, it means it's qualified. That means the book is an error. It doesn't mean that the book is bad. It doesn't mean anything like that. It doesn't mean that it's restored. It just means that the book has an error. So when you see a green label, it's actually not a bad thing.
Yeah, and I think a lot of time there's confusion around it, because sometimes you'll see it and it'll be a green label, and sometimes it's not. The biggest case of that I see is Amazing Spider-Man 238, because it used to get a green label if it didn't have the tattoos. Then they switched and it doesn't. So there's some with green, some with not. So there is a little bit of confusion around that label for sure.
Yeah, it's not the same as a purple label. When you see a purple label, you're like, I don't want to touch that.
Yeah, exactly.
A green label is like, maybe I do want to touch that, because it might be something very rare and something that you could probably make a good penny off of. So there you go. Is at number 5. You heard what I said? There you go. What the heck does that mean? So Spawn number 1, the green qualified label at 9.4, that sold for $5,000. Number 5, let's take a look at number 4. Mad 273. This book came out in 1987 for EC Comics. So this was before Mad was sold to DC Comics. This book also sold for $5,000, and that was on February 15th on eBay. What's really cool about this one is that it's signed with your pal, Pee Wee Herman, by Paul Rubens. I always say Rubens. Why am I saying Rubens? Look, I can't even say his name right. Paul Rubens. Pee Wee Herman.
I loved Mad Magazine when I was a kid, so this would be a fun one. Again, though, for me, like, this is a sell one. I would sell it for that. But it would be cool to have his signature, and it's verified, and you're not going to get any more of those, obviously. So
it's cool. And he passed away. It's a 9.8 as well. So $5,000 is a pretty solid sell for this book for a person that's no longer with us. Yeah, and it's a cool book to have. You Pee Wee Herman, your pal Pee Wee Herman. Yeah, that's cool. All right, let's take a look at number 3. Alberto, is that how we say it? Alberto,
I
number
think so.
2. Alberto, number 2 from 1984. Thoughts and Images, not to be mistaken for Image. Thoughts and Image Comics. This book sold for $6,250 on eBay February 10th. This features the first appearance of Usagi Yojimbo. Also has letters from Peter Laird and Dom Thompson. A 9.0 went for $6,250 for this book.
This is one of those books where I've kind of missed the boat on it, but this book has a huge not a huge, but have very dedicated following. There's people that hold on to this book and always people searching for it. And obviously look at it, that block all the way around, very difficult to get a good grade, low print run. And yeah, that lines up to make it a pretty valuable book.
I'll Beat Down. That's I'll Beat Down. Okay, I'll take it. Yosagi Yojimbo, they're still performing books. Stan Sakai. I can't say his last name now. Can you say his last name? It's not coming out.
Oh yeah,
it's not coming out. His name's not coming out. Sorry guys, his name's not coming out. But Usagi Yojimbo is a beloved character. He gets mixed into the whole Turtles lore because they had some appearances together early. But this character has always been a fun character. It's always been a great character. So the fact that this book sold for $6,000 is actually, I'm really happy about that for this book. It's another book that's rare, and like you said, the black makes it hard to get it at a high grade. But the book still, the character still stands the test of time. A very indie character as well.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't really go outside of comics as much. So okay. Let's take a look at number 2. Talking about the Turtles. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 1 from 1984 from Mirage Studios. This book sold on eBay at a fixed price on February 9th for $9,000, a 7.0, featuring the first appearance of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Splinter, and Shredder. The book that got away.
Yeah, those Turtle fans, man, they hunt this book, and people get it. And I think out of most of the books, those classic keys, that most people are like, they get a 4, and then they try to get the 5, and then they trade and try to get the 6. So, and this is a low print run too, because no one knew that the Turtles was going to take off when this book came out.
Yeah, I agree. Let me just do this here. So the Turtles in 84 were, no one knew who they were. Nobody. And you couldn't get, this was indie that would have had a Kickstarter project. This would have been a Kickstarter project.
Yeah, 100%.
Right? Because at that time, Eastman and Laird were selling the books out in their neighborhoods and getting it out so people could buy it. So the print run for this book is very, very small.
Yeah.
And therefore makes this book very sought after. And even at a 7.0, people are willing to cough up nearly $10,000 for this book.
Yeah. And I mentioned this on the weekly show, and I don't mind, admitting my faults for sure. And this is one, like you said, I remember I was there the day this hit the stands. I looked at it on the rack and turned to the comic store owner, my, what is this, 84? So this is my 13-year-old self. Turned to him and went, what the heck is in my hand? I had the book. What the heck is this book? No one is going to buy this. And I put it back down and bought, some other book.
And you're right. Probably no one did buy it. And that's why it's so rare.
Yeah.
But those that did buy it are happy today.
Yes, they are.
That's number 2. Let's take a look at the number 1 copper book of February. And that is Spider-Man #1, the Platinum Edition. This came out in 1990 from Marvel Comics. A 9.8 signed by Todd McFarlane himself. $10,000.
I mean, we just talked about this book. Look at that one. And this is, this is one that, again, if I'm there in front of him and he signs this book, I'm most likely keeping this one. This is a keeper.
Mm-hmm. It's a great book. Here's another thing to take note of. It's a 9.8. It's signed by Todd McFarlane. It's the Platinum Edition. And it's the Todd McFarlane label.
Yeah, love it.
That's perfect. That's absolutely perfect. $10,000. Thank you. Now, would you sell this one?
Now, like I said, like if I actually was there, like I would sell it if it was just sent in to like CGC for those things. Like I would probably sell it for that. But if it was me personally in front of Todd getting this signed while he's there, I keep that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's too iconic of a book to pass for me. It fits the mode of this is a keeper. Like, I don't know if you noticed, I got a statue right there of that cover. So imagine putting the Platinum one right next to it.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about getting a graded copy just for the hell of it.
Yeah, you know what? Like if I saw it at a con, it was less than 100. I would pick it up, and I've got I've got an attachment to this era because that was kind of my prime. I collect many more comics now, but back then it was different. And we talked about Wizard Magazine and all that, and with this, like with Todd taking over this book, it was a huge deal when it first came out, and I just kind of remember that. So I have a very good kind of memory of this era, so I definitely want to keep that. That's why I have so many copies of this book on my own anyway.
Yeah, so there you have it. That's #1 for this list for the Copper Age. We're going to go into our next list, which is the Bronze Age of comics. But before I do that, let's go ahead and continue to see what everyone is saying in the chat. So I'm gonna scoot on upward to see. Okay, so sometimes I think about the printer. They have first pick of the defects, possibly.
That's
green
a good
label
point.
means green labels means there's a defect that was not counted against the grade, from what I've been told. So, what's your understanding of the green label when it gets a green label?
I think that's a pretty good description of it.
All right, it's a manufacturer's so it's considered a manufacturer's defect. However, a green label can be damaged. Yeah, you're right. My SS1 was a 3.5 green, missing 4 story pages. So that's kind of almost like an incomplete. It depends on what it is. So to Tate's point, yeah, go ahead.
It says, according to CGC on their website, a qualified label is used by CGC for collectibles that have a significant defect that needs specific description. As an example, a comic book with missing coupon that otherwise grades 6 will receive a qualified grade, avoiding a lower grade.
But in this particular instance, a manufacturer's defect.
Yeah.
Where it has nothing to do with the buyer doing anything wrong. It had everything to do with it was printed wrong in some way.
Yeah, like if we talk about that Wolverine book, right? So it's a significant defect, so it significantly differs from the main cover because it's missing the foil. So they're not going to dock you grades for that because, like you said, it had nothing to do with the buyer of the book. It came that way, and so it doesn't hurt the grade. That's according to them.
And you are correct. A gold means it's signed That's correct. When we said the gold signature label, that's what they usually mean, that it's a gold yellow label. Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. If they grade it, Mr. Page, it will be a 0.5 blue label. Probably that's dependent on the book too. And again, this is CGC, not us making these decisions. So I guess it's dependent on the grader.
Yeah. And to go back to that signature comment, so CGC now has the 2 gold. So there's, if it's all gold on the top or yellow,
Mhm.
then that means that the signature was actually witnessed by
Mhm.
CGC. And if it has that strip of black, like one of them that we looked at, then that means that CGC has used their authentication
Mhm.
and verified that that is the person that signed it. A little bit of
Yeah.
a difference, but I don't know value-wise if it comes down to any more significant difference.
Yeah. Right. Mad. Yeah, that's right. The Mad comic was awesome. Let's see here. 0.5 blue or green. 3.5 is the way I understand. Yeah. I personally don't mind taking a green 3.5 depending on what that green means. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I hope that make it. Oh, condolences, John. All right. I meant to do that in Pee Wee's voice. Okay. My mom does a real good Pee Wee. I know. I don't get that. Right. Should have bought the whole stack. He's referring to the Teenage Mutant Ninja
I know.
Turtle.
That's why whenever we talk about the turtles, I go back to that and I'm just like,
What could have been. All right. Not even a full Todd. So he was referring to the the signature not having his full name. It was just a T McFarlane.
yeah.
So it's worth more if it has the full Todd, or now it's worth less. I'm concerned. All
Yeah.
right. Bobby met Todd, so have I. I actually spoke to Todd this past year in New York Comic Con, but I met him beforehand as well. Okay. Yeah, missing MVS gets you a green level. Okay, yeah, okay. Marvel value stamp gets you a green level. Mm-hmm. Green is for money and gold is for honey. It's probably one of the best That's the comment of the day so far. Gold is for honey. All right, that's a good one, Bobby. I give it to you. Let's take a look at the Bronze Age Chartbusters. These are the books that came out in 1970 to 1985, starting with number 5, Batman 232. This book came out in 1971 for DC Comics. This is the first appearance of Ra's al Ghul with a cameo by Talia al Ghul, his daughter. This book sold at Heritage Auction on February 25th for $7,200, and that was for a 9.8.
Izzy, this book is as old as I am, and I'm not a 9.8. So that's impressive.
But are you worth $7,200? You don't have to answer that. What can you say about this book? It is iconic. It is awesome.
Yeah, and it and that grade for that age, amazing.
Mm-hmm. Now let's go ahead and talk about its true value. Do you think it should be worth more or less? Or you think it's at the right place?
I mean, that's in Batman world, that's a main character for sure. But I think outside of, the Batman kind of comic fans, aside from Batman Begins, and even that they didn't really explain it super well. I think Liam Nielsen did a great job.
I agree.
But I just don't think that the drive is there as much as for a Riddler or a Joker, obviously, or a main character like that, even though he is a very important character. So I would say that's probably about right. But the condition obviously is what garners that value for sure.
He's one of those characters that I think he's not a Golden Age villain.
Yeah.
He's not even a Silver Age villain. So he was created in the Bronze Age. And so that puts him in a different level as far as Batman villains go. He's not within the top range. But he is considered, like you said, one of the most important villains, because he actually has a connection to Batman that
Yeah.
the other villains don't really have, right? And I think that's what makes him special. Of course, Neil Adams, Denny O'Neil, creation. Who could say anything bad about it? And every time you see Ra's al Ghul, you know something's gonna happen.
Yeah, there's always a cool element to the story. I mean, look at all the stuff with Damien, and it's technically his grandfather,
Mm-hmm.
and Talia. Like, all those characters are still around, and it just creates really interesting story possibilities, in my opinion. So,
So there you have it, Batman 232. That came in number 5 for $7,200. Let's take a look at which book came in number 4. Incredible Hulk 181, 1974 from Marvel Comics. This book sold on eBay on February 11th for a fixed price of $8,000. The first full appearance of James Houslett, Logan for short, code name Wolverine.
yeah,
A 9.2.
I'd love to own this book one day, but it's just, this is one of those books that, again, if you look at if we saw the number of slabs of this book, you would just have to kind of go, be patient. Hopefully something will come along. But awesome book, obviously. Super important character. I mean, 8,000. Yeah, I'd love to own one of these.
So there's a video out there by Lunch Money Comics. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He did a search. He went to do a search, right? He went to someone's house and he started looking at the guy's books because the guy wanted to sell off his books. So he invited him over to look at his books. He's going through the books and there were some banger books there in the list. But then when he's going through the books, this book pops out of nowhere. And then when he tells the owner had no idea what the book was. So the owner's like, oh, and he's like, oh, this book is important. It's like, really? He's like, yeah. It's like, what? So the guy tells him, how much is it? Like a couple of $100. It's like, no, like a couple of $1,000. And the guy was like, no, had no idea what his collection was worth.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that for sure. In this day and age, though, it just surprises me that can happen still, where someone doesn't just, like, I get it if you had like a couple hundred books, you don't want to take the time to go through them all, or it's more of a burden. But realistically, it takes probably less than an hour to go through all of them and get an idea.
Yeah. A book that you wouldn't sell this one if you had it, would you?
No.
Same. I would definitely. This is
I
definitely a keeper.
I put it up there right with my first appearance of the furry beast.
It's like turtles, Wolverine. I'll take the Wolverine.
Yeah. Oh, all day over the turtles. I would instantly sell the turtles, even though it's a lot rarer book than this one. The importance just isn't there for me.
All right. Let's take a look at number 3. And that's Giant Size X-Men #1. You were just talking about this book. Came out in 1975 from Marvel Comics. The book sold on eBay February 26th at a fixed price of $10,500, featuring the first appearance of the new X-Men, Storm, Nightcrawler, Colossus, and the second appearance of Wolverine.
Awesome book. I mean, there's all kinds of debates over, X-Men 1 versus, Giant Size X-Men 1. Obviously, you can't have the X-Men without that first book. But
yeah, of course.
This is kind of my era of X-Men. This is the one that I kind of grew up with all of that run. And this is on my radar for sure. This is something that isn't in my collection yet in any form except for the facsimile, but
yeah,
I'm just going to have to bite the bullet on this one because I don't think that it kind of trends down the odd time, but it doesn't ever, bottom out or anything like that.
This is one of those books for me that I probably will pick up raw because I think a raw book is more affordable
Yeah.
than a graded copy for the book. The problem with it is the grading part of it, because then you have to pay that 4% or something like that
Yeah.
for it, and that could end up making the book worth.
Yeah. Yeah. That's another thing about CGC that I'm not a fan of. You know, if I send in this book and I put the value at, whatever, because I go, well, I don't know what they're going to grade it at. Who knows? And they get it and they go, oh no, this is a 2 points or 3 points higher than you thought, so we're going to now charge you more.
Yeah.
On the flip side, if I send them a book and I put the value at $400, but it's actually worth more, and they lose it,
Mm-hmm.
They don't give me the money that it was worth. They give me what I said it was worth.
Yeah. I think that is a shame, because it's like, oh, we want our piece of the pie because you gave us this book.
Yeah.
It's like you're doing the same job you would on any other book. The only difference is that the book you have here is a blue chip book. This book has significant value to it.
Yeah. So
you're not handling it differently.
Yeah. Like, what does it say about the process, really? And I'm talking to as someone that has, sent before, and I have 50 books there right now. But what does it say about your practice that it's more to grade one book over another? Like, again, to what you said. So you don't care as much about this modern book that I'm sending. You don't spend as much time looking at it, and it's done by different people than this vintage book, even not even one like this. So yeah, it's something that everybody should consider if they are going to buy like a book like this, raw versus graded, because you got to be able to factor in that cost of grading. It's not the $20. It would be much higher than that.
Yeah. So, but this is a book, and I'm with you. I say, obviously, X-Men #1. We wouldn't have giant size X-Men if we didn't, we didn't have X-Men #1. But I have to say this one's more important. I want this one more than I want X-Men #1.
Yeah, me too.
Let's take a look at our. Nah, I doubt it. First appearance of Cyclops or first appearance of Storm. Which one you're gonna pick? Just saying. Anyway, next book in our list, number 2. Tomb of Dracula, number 10. This came out in 1973 for Marvel Comics. This book sold in Heritage Auction on February 18 for $15,600. This is a 9.8 of the first appearance of Blade the Vampire Hunter.
This is one of those books. It's like the success story of comic books, because when I was collecting, back in the 80s, this was a book that was probably very easy to get and very, very cheap. As opposed to Giant Size X-Men. Giant Size X-Men has always been a major book since it first came out. Whereas this one, it's the first appearance of Blade, which is cool. But at the time it came out, Blade was not very popular really until that movie started to hit.
Yeah. Wesley Snipes changed it all.
Yeah.
So, with Tomb of Dracula, could it be that it had a lower print run than, let's just say, Giant Size X-Men? Even though Giant Size X-Men was a test?
I think for sure this had a very low print run.
And thus, the cost of the book is so high in comparison. Right?
Yep.
So, and it is Blade. Blade is extremely popular today. We're all waiting for that new Blade movie to come out. When will it ever come out? We have no idea. But his popularity is still up there. And he's still, someone that people want to get his first appearance for.
Yeah, for sure. And, I just rewatched Alita Battle Angel, which has Mahershala, I can't remember his name for sure.
Mahershala.
Yeah. And he is so good. And I just see him now as Blade. And I really hope they make that movie, because I think he would be excellent in it.
He wants to do it.
Yeah.
He wants to do it, but they've been having problems with script, with directors. It just hasn't panned out. And at that point, it's like, when are we going to finally get a Blade?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's number 2. Let's take a look at the number 1 book that was from Bronze Age, and that is Marvel Spotlight number 1, 1972 for Marvel Comics. This last sold on eBay on February 24th at a fixed price of $26,500. And this is the first appearance and origin of Roxanne Simpson. But more importantly, it's the first appearance of Johnny Blaze, the Ghost Rider.
I love this book. I love this character. This is the first major book that I just dove in and like, I'm buying this book. I have it in a 4.0. I bought it graded.
Oh, really? Cool.
Yeah. And I've read it multiple times. Like, I love this series when I was a kid. I think all of the covers are amazing. I'm one issue away from having this whole run of not just the Marvel Spotlight, but of the first of Johnny Blaze Ghost Rider series. It's one of my favorites for sure. I have a lot of good memories about this series. So yeah, I love this book.
$26,000 for this book at a 9.4. You said you have a 4.0, right?
Yeah.
Would you upgrade it?
Oh, yeah, instantly. I would trade and trade with other stuff, obviously, or money to get into a higher grade. I don't know if I would ever be able to get a 9.4. Kind of where my head would be at is similar to you. I think I would definitely take whatever comparable grade of a Fantasy 15 over this for sure.
Mm-hmm. Okay. There you have it. That's number 1 for the Bronze Age. Marvel Spotlight number 5. First appearance of Ghost Rider. Woo-hoo. We're almost at that point. We're hitting the Silver Age now. Let's take a look at what the chat's been saying lately. And it looks like, okay, I see it. Bobby Delgado sold his Hulk 181. Wow, man. For $20. Yeah, I think that was a bad decision. But turned around and got a giant size X-Men for $20, then got it signed by Mr. Crockham. What do you think? You think that was a good trade-off?
Yeah, I think that's good. It's his second appearance. That's pretty good.
You gave up the first for the second.
There's so many of those Hulk 181s and giant size for that matter. Let's not kid ourselves.
If you really want a giant size X-Men, I have some early ASMs you want to part with, then I may be able to help you. There you go, making deals right here, Barbarians Kung Fu. That's always cool. That's good to know. All right. Roxanne. Roxanne, you don't have to put on the red light.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Those days are over. You don't have to say about it to the net. Anyway, Roxanne, I can't throw that one. So my wife and I were talking, off topic for a second. My wife and I were talking about the Police. And if you ever listen to the songs of the Police, I love the Police. He's one of my favorite bands. They were creeps. They were like, most of the songs are like being a stalker or something like that. It's like, okay.
It's best not to look too deep into the lyrics for sure.
Well, a lot of people use the song Every Breath You Take as their wedding song when it's a stalker song.
Yeah. It's right there in the words. It's pretty easy.
Every breath you take. I'll be watching you.
I'll be watching you.
Okay. It's time for the Silver Age Chartbusters. These are the books that came out in 1950. I'm sorry. Coming soon, Izzy vs. Karaoke. That's my second channel. Chances are I'll probably make more subscribers off of that one than 10K. I'll make 10K in like 6 months?
Yeah.
It was a different time. Was it? But it doesn't make it right. So to Campbell. Did he pain that man? Oh yeah. Okay, let's get back to business here. Silver Age Chartbusters, 1956 to 1970. Oh man, I love these books. These are the books that I absolutely love. Let's start off with number 5. Tales of Suspense 39, 1963 from Marvel Comics. This sold on eBay February 24th for $9,011. This features the first appearance of Iron Man Tony Stark. $9,000 for a 4.5. Not too shabby.
No, definitely not. I've actually been thinking about going back and watching all the Marvel movies through, and Iron Man is just so good. Such a good movie.
It really is. $10,000. What do you think? Just under $10,000. Would you pull the trigger?
This one, I'm not as attached to this from my childhood or anything as some of the other characters. So I would probably, if I had this, I would sell it for something else.
I see. To me, it's one of the big 3. When I look at the Avengers, it's one of the big 3. So if I was to have this, then I would have to work on getting the other 2. I would have to work on getting the Thor, and then I will work on getting Avengers 4, because I consider that to be the first Silver Age appearance of Captain America, because I probably wouldn't be able to afford Captain America comics, number 1. That's just way too expensive.
This would definitely lead you down a dark path of very expensive books for sure.
Yeah. Or get the premiere issues as well. Those are some books that are really fun to get. So there you have it. Tales of Suspense 39, first appearance of Iron Man, came in number 5. At number 4, Amazing Spider-Man number 1. This came out in 1963 from Marvel Comics. It sold on eBay on February 18th for $12,000. Second appearance of Spider-Man. First appearance of J. Jonah Jameson and the Comedian, a 5.0 for $12,000.
That's awesome. Like, this is one of those books. This is a lot more in my wheelhouse. I have about 17,000 books, and I would be willing to sacrifice many, many, many thousands of them to get a copy of this book.
So would you give up, I'll say half of your collection for at least one copy of this book, regardless of the grade?
It would have to be close to this grade, but I would do a trade. Like, it's so complicated because all of my books are mainly raw until I start to get more slabs in. But that's the idea, is to get a bunch of slabs and trade them for these more kind of Silver Age keys that I'm looking for.
Yeah. Like, for me, I have a large amount of comic books from my youth that I've collected. I'm sure you're very similar. And for the most part, a lot of these books don't have that value. Yeah, because they're reader books. We do it all the time. Every Wednesday we go buy books. We know those books are not going to be worth anything afterwards, with the exception of 1 or 2 here and there. So by getting rid of a collection in order to get more quality, would it be worth it? Some people, the answer is yes. For some people, it's no, because it's very hard to get rid of a collection once you work so hard on it.
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And I think, with a lot of the newer books, you're 100% right. I enjoy them. Like, as you know, like, we talk about it every week. I read every book. I if I don't like it, I don't get it. And I do buy just for covers sometimes. Like, I'm not going to say that I don't do that, but I more thoroughly enjoy a really good story. And so that's why I keep buying comics. That's why I buy comics every week. But that being said, I would easily trade off and have much less volume for much greater quality.
Cool. Yeah, I feel the same way, especially now that I'm at that stage where I'm like, I've run out of space.
Yeah.
When you run out of space, you're like, oh no, I gotta make space. And with the amount of money you can make off of a collection, will you make $12,000 off that collection? Depends on how big that collection is, really. However, it is interesting to say, like, would I get an Amazing Spider-Man number 1 and then get rid of everything else? That's hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. Like look at as an example in CLZ, like I have my stuff sorted and by box. Like I have 19 or 20 long boxes plus everything else I have. And most long boxes sit around, according to cover price, as about $1,500 value. And we both know, I'm sure you know as well, that the actual value of what I could sell that long box for, of just any pick a long box that has about $1,500 value, you'd be lucky to get, a couple $100 for that long box,
Yeah.
as just a bulk sale.
Yeah, and that's why when I do, I try sometimes to vend myself. So I'm not a vendor. I'm gonna say that right up front. However, I do have opportunities to get a table at a convention, and in that table, I'll sell some of my books off. Right, I sell them at a fraction of the price, just so I could get them to walk.
Yep.
And what I always find interesting is how certain times they walk and sometimes they just sit there regardless of the price. Where you could have a book there that is easily a $25 book, but no one budged for it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care. But it's a $25 book. They won't budge. But when you see something like this, it's a different story.
You're gonna I 100% agree. You can have, all these books out and not have one person look at them, and it's even a $50 book, and you're selling it for $10 and not unload it. Whereas if you have one of these up on your wall, you're going to have people looking at it almost every 10 or 15 minutes.
Yeah, because they just want to see it. They want to be in its presence. In other words,
yeah,
I agree. All right, Amazing Spider-Man #1 at number 4. Let's take a look at number 3. Fantastic Four #1. This book came up. Oh no! Darn it! We got our first era.
There it is. It happened.
It happened.
Who mentioned that earlier? Was that Joe?
Yeah, it was Joe. We were doing so good for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
The good news is I know what year that book came out. 1962. Okay, let's son of a gun. And Joe has not said anything. He'll probably show up out of nowhere and say, ha 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 ha. Okay, Fantastic Four #1. This book came out in 1962 for Marvel Comics. It sold on Comic Book Addiction. I've never really heard of this place. On February 18th at a fixed price of $13,150. This is obviously the first appearance of the Fantastic Four and the Mole Man.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of this cover. It is obviously a classic cover, but to me, again, I'm not attached to Fantastic Four, so this is a book that I would definitely sell off to get something else.
It's a book that you mentioned it earlier with the historic value. I think this is the start of the Marvel Age of Comics.
Yeah.
Where this started it all. So I think for that, it's worth it. Just for that alone. People look at the Fantastic Four and there's Marvel's first family for obvious reasons. And I remember it used to have the tagline, world's greatest comic. And I remember as a kid, it's like, is it really the world's greatest comic?
Yeah.
But it has that significant historic value to it. So for me, having the Fantastic Four #1 would be important.
Yeah.
I would have it as part of my collection.
Yeah. And not being a huge FF guy, I don't have anything but high hopes for the movie. I want it to succeed because it just makes everything else around it better. So I enjoyed the other movies, even the one that people don't like, I liked.
Yeah.
Because I'm not embroiled in all of the history and all of that. I just enjoyed them as movies. So I'm really hoping for the new one. So
yeah. $13,000, 3.5. Would you say it's worth its price?
Yeah, like you said, it has a lot of historical significance. So think the value's there for sure.
Yeah. I think this might be an undervalued book, especially now that we have a movie coming up. I think the price is going to probably shoot up a little bit higher.
Mm-hmm.
Who's to say? Let's take a look at number 2. Another big one, Amazing Fantasy number 15. This came out in 1962 from Marvel Comics. The book sold on eBay on February 24th for $22,750. I can't say much about it other than this is what many call the holy grail of comics today.
I totally agree with that. This is the book. Like if I had this book, then I would not need to seek anything else, because to me, even though there's really important golden age books and all of that, and we'll get to them, I don't need any of those. You could have your first Superman. I get it. It's awesome. I'm a huge Superman fan too. But for me, because I love this character so much, I would sell all of those ones to be able to get this.
So if you had the ability to have, I'm going to just throw it out. You had a choice. You could get a 9.8 Action Comics number 1 or a 5.0 Amazing Fantasy. Which one you go for?
Well, I'd have to go with the Action 1, obviously, for the money. But I would
sell it off and then you buy the Abbey.
And I would buy this.
If you didn't have the choice to sell it, you have to. In other words, you buying to keep. You cannot sell it.
I don't know. That's a tough one. I'd probably, I don't know, maybe the Action Comics, I guess, because that condition, that's insane.
Mm-hmm. You have $1 million comic book.
Yeah, but you can't sell it.
You could display it.
Yeah, I guess I could take a loan out against it and buy the book, maybe.
You know, who knows? It's just one of those weird what if scenarios, right? Where you have to look at it from that perspective. That's why I said you can't sell it. That's why I said that. But if I said you could sell it, of course you'd take the Action Comics. I'll take the Action Comics all day. It's Spider-Man's first appearance, guys. It's a no-brainer. $22,000 for a 2.5. That's what people are willing to cough up for this book, because this is a book that always sells. It's a book that never, if you have it, if you're a dealer and you have it, you're guaranteed to sell it at one point or another. Guaranteed. Yeah. Because someone's going to pick it up.
And this is definitely one that if I ever had a chance to buy it, would buy graded, because it's just too many factors that make it too difficult to buy a raw copy.
Yeah.
Like, heaven forbid you bought a copy of this and then it comes back restored or something. I mean, it would just be absolutely heartbreaking.
Yeah, I agree. There you have it. Amazing Fantasy 15 at number 2. Number 1, Showcase number 4, 1956 for DC Comics. This sold on eBay on February 28th at a fixed price of $23,000. This is the first appearance of Barry Allen, the Silver Age Flash, and who would eventually become his wife, Iris West.
Meh.
This is the start of the Silver Age.
Yeah, I know. I get it.
And you just went,
meh. You know what? Like, don't get me wrong. So I'll qualify my meh attitude. I loved the Wally West run of The Flash. I thought it was awesome. I'm just not.
You're a Wally fan as opposed to
Yeah, I appreciate the history of it for sure, but this book, it doesn't do much for me, really.
Interesting. I love the Flash. He's one of my favorite characters, but I'm with you. I'm a Wally guy because that's who I grew up reading.
Yeah,
I grew up reading Wally Barry died a noble death in Crisis, and I was okay with it. And I felt like he didn't need to come back.
Yeah.
Right. So, but he, like all things in comic books, he eventually has to come back because, of course, of movies and things like that. Even though Justice League, I do believe the Justice League cartoon is Wally, if I'm not mistaken.
The cartoon, I think it is, yeah.
So who's to say? And then now when you look at Flash, you kind of have elements of Wally embedded into Barry. So like the Grant Gustin version of Flash to me is more Wally than it is Barry.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Right. So, but this book ushers in a new era of comics. And that's why it's so important. This is the Silver Age of comics, and this is the book that kickstarts it. So, like Fantastic Four, number one, this one has that historic value to it. And $23,000 for a 4.5 just shows you how important this book really is. So, there you have it, guys. That's the Silver Age of comics. We're going to go to the Golden Age, Shane.
Yep. Well, give me 1 minute and I'll be back before you start.
Okay. So, cool. Yeah, I see. You just sent me the text message.
Yeah.
So, guys, let's take a look at the chat one more time here. At this point, I'm good with facsimiles. Yes, all my run filler issues. Okay, that's cool, Kimbo. Yeah, that's a big question. Monetary value versus emotional value. Emotional value does have a place when it comes to comics, because when I look at having these key books, these blue chip key books that are worth thousands upon thousands of dollars, let's just say 5 books. If I could own 5 books, but I could get rid of my entire collection, I'm looking at, in my case, nearly almost 40 years of collecting. And if I've been collecting for 40 years and I have to get rid of it all for 5 books, is it something that I'm willing to do? Like, let you guys tell me. You guys are in the chat right now. Let me know. Would you do that? Would you get rid of your entire collection for 5 blue chip books? Right? And we'll look at Giant Size X-Men, Incredible Hulk 181. We'll throw in Amazing Fantasy 15, Amazing Spider-Man #1, and Fantastic Four. And we'll throw in Showcase as well. If you have any one of those 5 books in pretty good grades, would you give up your entire collection for it? That's a question that you have to ask yourself. I don't know if I could do it personally. It would have to be some real strong contenders for me to do it. So, but that's the thing. So as Shane gets ready, I'm gonna throw that question to him as well. So Shane, as I was telling the people in the chat while you were away, if you have the choice of 5 books that we just talked about, the Silver Age books, if you had a choice of having those 5 books, would you give up your entire collection for those 5?
Whew, that's a good question. That's a good one. Because most of my collection obviously is from when I was buying. So that's in the 80s. So most of mine is like...
You got about 40 to 50 years worth of collecting.
Yeah, and for 5 books, give it all up. Mm-hmm. But ASM, like a first appearance of Spider-Man, I might do it. Yeah. I might do it.
You have a lot more space, I'll give you that much.
100%. And of those 5, like obviously I'm willing to part with some of them too. So that would let me get other keys, but that's given up. Like I have a full run of Uncanny almost from 94 to 544. And
that's a good run.
many DC runs too. And all of the Spider-Man runs except for ASM. And I have almost all of ASM from 100 up as well. So that's, there's some big books in there, obviously, but that's, I probably would. just because it's crazy. Like that's something like, wow, that would be amazing. That would be a good video.
That would be a good video. But speaking of good videos, let's move on with this video that we're doing right now. And we're going to go into the Golden Age Chartbusters. These are the books from 1938 to 1956. Of course, they're bangers. So let's start with number 5. Detective Comics 225. This book came out in 1955 for DC Comics. It sold at a Heritage auction at February 18th for $9,900. This features the first appearance of John Jones, the Martian Manhunter.
And this is in good shape for a
7.5
comic.
7.5 for less than $10,000.
Yeah, and who knew that the Martian Manhunter first appearance commanded that much value? But that's
not surprising to me.
And I love the yellow covers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it says it on top, Manhunter from Mars on the top. So that's interesting. 7.5 for under $10,000 for a character that is a proud member of the Justice League. Because when you think of Justice League, of course you think of Batman, of course you think of Superman, but Martian Manhunter, I gotta say, is kind of like the heart of the group. If he's not in the team, there's something wrong, and they've done that plenty of times. They try to replace him with Cyborg. I'm sorry, no, it doesn't work for me.
Yeah, and I agree because I love Cyborg. But I'll say that first. But I feel like Martian Manhunter is like kind of really underutilized, and even if you look at I don't know if you've seen the previews for Absolute Martian Manhunter, but even that, like I looked at the art and I'm like, I don't know, they're not giving him his due here.
I'm curious to see what that one's like. That's the one I'm most curious about because I think that's the most ambitious story. So with that coming up, this book could see an increase of some kind.
Yeah, I imagine.
That's number 5. At number 4, Detective Comics 140, 1940 for DC Comics. This sold on eBay at a fixed price on February 18th of $10,500, a 4.5 first appearance of the Riddler. Another yellow cover.
Yeah. Now let me ask you this. I don't think we've ever talked about this, but would you buy this book on eBay?
It's a hard one.
Are you comfortable enough?
Someone was.
Turn over that much cash for it's graded, so we've got that. And I appreciate that for sure. But I was just thinking of that and I'm like, I don't know, man. I'd rather be at a con and have it in my hand and have it and buy it than.
Yeah, I think with an eBay purchase, a book of this magnitude as well and this cost, oh man, you gotta be nervous. Because imagine shipping that thing.
Oh my God. No, I don't want to imagine that.
Just the thoughts, of it's in a box. You're like, oh, how am I going to get this book?
You're basically, as the buyer and the seller, panicking the whole time that book is in between the two.
Now, something like a Heritage auction, I'm fine with.
Yeah. Yep.
So an auction house is always good for these kinds of things because that's kind of like their business. A co-assignment might be something you might be interested in as well. But I'm with you. I think in a con itself where I could physically walk away with the book, I think I'll feel more comfortable with that.
Yeah.
Anything to put it, when you put the post office in anything, I'm like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. Like my bundle of 25 books that I just sent, like I'm always like, I try not to think of it because you just don't know what's going to happen on the way there. And those books are nowhere near the value of this one book.
Yeah. So going back to this book, what's your thoughts on the Riddler? Because I have my personal opinion, and I'll be honest, he is one of my favorite characters. I always loved the Riddler, but the Riddler I think about is the Riddler from the TV show.
I was just going to ask you that. like kind of your thoughts on like did you like the Batman, the newest movie, the Paul Dano version versus kind of the more silly leaning into that, the Jim Carrey and the TV show version?
So for me, I'm more of a fan of the Frank Gorshin Riddler. Um, I understood why Jim Carrey was chosen. It made sense. At that time, he was the hottest actor out there. Well, hottest comedic actor. So it was guaranteed money on their behalf, which turned out to be true. That movie made a lot of money, despite the fact that it's really not as good as it should be. It's fun to watch, though.
No, I hate it.
You hate it. I have a nice. It has a soft spot in my heart. But Frank Gorshin's Riddler, what I liked about his Riddler was there was something inside of him that he would get serious at times, and it was scary.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the side of Riddler I liked a lot. The Paul Dano, I'm sorry. The Paul Dano version of the Riddler, I did not like the way he looked. It was terrible, the costume design for it. Like, he was the Unabomber, and
Yeah.
that wasn't like the Riddler I know. The Riddler I know is a debonair type of guy. He has a suit at times, and then sometimes he puts the silly costume. So, though I like the Batman movie, I really do like the Batman movie. I enjoyed it a lot. That's the side I wasn't too crazy about.
Yeah, see, and I'm not super attached to the Riddler like you are, and I thought that I loved his portrayal in that movie, and I thought it was very well done. But on top of that, you can get the Riddler series that Paul Dano actually helped to write, and I thought it was excellent. I thought that was a really good story. Just to go back to that movie for 1 second, the kind of what turns me off in that movie is not Jim's Carrey performance. I liked it. Is Tommy Lee Jones' performance. It just drives me crazy because it's not Two-Face. He's playing the Joker. It's 100% clear that he did not do, and I like him as an actor, but he did not do any research for that at all, because it was just like, oh, I'm going to be crazy because it's crazy. Like, no, he had no element of Two-Face at all, in my opinion.
But could you put the blame on Joe Schumacher rather than
yes,
Tommy Lee Jones on that one?
100%.
Because that's his fault.
Yes, so I totally avoid those movies. I bought, because obviously you can get the set and it's cheap, right? I refuse to give them money for anything after Batman Returns in that run. I don't own any of them, and I'll probably never watch them again unless it was on free on TV or something.
Yeah. So I remember going to see that movie. I enjoyed it. I won't lie. I enjoyed it a lot. And then when I got to see part 4, I hated part 4. Hated it. Several years later, I was working in the city. I was working in Banana Republic, out of all places.
Yeah.
And as I'm working in Banana Republic one day, Joel Schumacher walks into the shop. Now, granted, I hated Batman and Robin. Hated that movie.
Yep.
I see him and I want to kill him. Because I wanted to give him a piece of my mind. Yep. And I was held back, unfortunately. They wouldn't let me do it. I was like, at the point, it's like, no, you cannot do it. Like, I got to tell him off. I got him. And I could only imagine how many times people have done that and told him off. Because he destroyed a franchise.
Yeah, he's actually owned up to it in an article. I don't remember. It was a while ago now that.
Yeah, he passed away. So.
Yeah. And yeah, I agree. Like, I remember in the theater going to see Batman and Robin, whatever the last one was, Batman Forever or whatever.
Yeah, Batman and Robin.
And wanting to leave in the first 5 minutes.
It was so bad.
And
Everything about it was bad.
Just being so mad. And yeah, I just ignore those movies.
So Batman Forever was bad as well. And you're right about Tommy Lee Jones' portrayal. But there's parts of Batman Forever that are digestible.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right? And of course, it's Jim Carrey being Jim Carrey. So, you kind of like take that. You knew that Tommy Lee Jones hated doing what he was doing. It was just for a paycheck. There was definitely rumors that he absolutely hated Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And he was telling him, like, I hate you. Get out of my face. So, you know what I mean? But Joel Schumacher was given the movie. He was told, take it away from Tim Burton. And that's what ended up happening. They wanted to go more campy at that time. It was a terrible move, to tell you the truth. Yeah. But if it wasn't for that, we probably wouldn't have had Batman Begins.
Yeah, and I can appreciate that because thankfully the ship got righted and we got Batman Begins.
So it all ended up well in the end.
Yeah.
Let's go to number 3. And that's Action Comics number 6. This book came out in 1938 for DC Comics. The book sold on eBay on February 15 at a fixed price of $11,500. And this is the first appearance of Jimmy Olsen.
I don't know about you, but I don't think I am ever buying a restored copy of a book.
Well, restored copies of Golden Age books aren't too bad because they're trying to preserve the book. Yeah. So it's kind of like an art piece in a museum that they're trying to preserve it. It's the same thing here. Golden Age books with a purple label aren't as bad.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying?
Mean, I guess I would say that if I could see a video, even if it was a video that got sent to me of the whole process, beginning to end, of exactly what they did before that book got sent up, then I might consider buying it. But just buying it, not knowing exactly what happened, I'm not interested.
Going in code, yeah. So the touch-ups and things like that. And that was a big thing. Before CGC, before grading was a thing, restoring a book was a common practice for Golden Age books. They would just restore the books. You would see them. They'll put it in like these liquid baths. All that stuff would happen so that the book changed the staples just so that they could preserve the book. And then, of course, now that CGC is in play, all that stuff is considered to be forbidden work because now you're actually giving harm to the book. But when it comes to Golden Age books, a restored copy really isn't as bad. Like, if you could have a restored copy of a Golden Age book, would you take it?
I don't know. Again,
you get a restored copy at 9.0 versus a 4.5 that's not restored.
I take a 4.5 every time. There's a really good channel. I'm not sure if you've ever watched him, Jerry the Jitterbug.
Yeah, I know Jerry.
Yeah, he does a lot of restoration stuff, and it's very cool to see exactly his process. And that's what I would be interested in. Like if I had a book that I wanted restored and I sent it to him, completely different. Sure, I'd take the restored copy because I would know what was involved in it. But otherwise, no, I'd just take a blue label at half the grade even.
Okay. What's your thought on Jimmy Olsen's first appearance?
I don't know. Again, I don't want to offend anybody, but Jimmy Olsen to me is kind of like a secondary, not really important character.
True. He's just Jimmy.
He's Jimmy. Good for Jimmy.
Good for Jimmy. And let's move away from Jimmy and let's go to our next book. Popular Teenagers, number 7. This book came out in 1951 from Star Publications. It sold at a heritage auction on February 13th for $13,200. This features artwork by Manny Stallman, and it has a L.B. Cole cover. Before you say anything, I did some digging on this book because I was asking myself the question, why would Popular Teenagers number 7 be worth $13,000? My answer was because it is.
This is one of those books that we need Lady F to read the page for us. Like, I'm with you. Like why? Unless like I can't read what's on there, but unless it was like one of those covers where it's, like an innuendo or something.
Even so, LB Cole demands money.
I guess, yeah.
Is he like the Todd McFarlane of the golden age?
And again, it's in great shape for that age. Like there's no doubt about that. Like this would be a tough book I'm sure to get in that grade. It's probably one of the top graded copies of that book. But again, I hate to say it all the time, but I'm immediately selling this book for something else.
Yeah, I don't have any type of connection with a book like this. It's not a title that I'm familiar with. It's pre-code. That's something.
Yep.
So, like you said, there could be some innuendos with it. It's a possibility. LB Cole, yeah, I'll give it that much. LB Cole is LB Cole. Not taking anything away from his work, but yeah, I'm with you. $13,000.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the slab, I can definitely see this. There is nothing significant noted, and not that they always note what's important on a slab. That's another pet peeve I have with CGC. Don't get me started on that either. But this isn't like, according to CGC, it's not a first appearance of anything. It's not a special anything. It's just an issue of Popular Teenagers.
And that came in number 2. So number 1 has to be Detective Comics 28. This book came out in 1939 for DC Comics. It's sold on Heritage Auction on February 21st for $22,700. And this is the second appearance of Batman. Worth noting, this is a CBCS 6.5. Now let's talk.
Yeah, and that's been graded recently, obviously, because that label is just new in the last couple of years. This, to me, is a book you don't see a lot for such an important book. Like, it's the second appearance of Batman. And
I'll be honest, I don't even recall that cover.
No, and he's not even on the cover.
He's not on the cover. It doesn't ring a bell to me. I saw this book at first glance and I didn't know anything about it. And then I said, oh, wait a minute, it's Detective 28. And I was like, oh, it's got to be the second appearance of Batman. And it's the second appearance of Batman.
What's the yellow thing say, like, before it says the Batman? What's it say on there?
I can't read it. I could get it off of I'm probably able to get it off the PowerPoint. So
like this month and every month, the Batman?
Mm-hmm. Possibly. So let me see. I got the image. Oh no, this is not the same one. So let me get the right PowerPoint. But the cost of this one in comparison to number 1 is very interesting to me. Right? So Detective 27 being his first appearance, significantly more. We're talking about 6 figures to 7 to 6 figures, right?
Yeah.
This one, 22,000, 6.5 is a pretty darn good grade.
I know. Very undervalued book. And, you never really see this book in lists or trading or anything like that. So, yeah, I think this is a great book if you could pick it up. And I think that's not a bad value, actually. Not that I have that much money, but.
Yeah. And you're right. It says this month and every month, the Batman. So the only thing you get of Batman in the cover is this month, every month, the Batman, and he's
Yep.
not even in the cover.
And that probably hurts the value a little bit too. Like if he was on
I
the cover
agree.
again.
I agree with that. I think this book will be worth so much more if, in fact, like you said, if he was in the cover in some way. Because it's still a second appearance.
Yeah.
You know, and it didn't even crack 25. So there you have it. Those are the highest selling comics for the month of February. What a list. We did it. We stood under 3 hours. Let's go ahead and talk to the chat for a few seconds before we call it a day. Give up all your books for a comic you can't touch, you can't smell. Oh, that is a good question. It's all graded, but it's the value's there.
Yeah.
Okay. Riddle me this. There are 3 men in a boat with 4 cigarettes and no lighter. How do they smoke? I'm not going to do riddles, man. He has the answer. Okay. Don't worry, Izzy. I hate Batman and Robin as well. And the answer is they throw 1 cigarette overboard and made the boat a cigarette lighter. Or is it he's more of a giggle than a laugh, right?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Jimmy LB Cole equals money, money, money. All right. And here we go. We got Chico Suave. I like that name. Chico Suave. What's your guys' take on the new ASM #1 that's coming out soon? Well, being that we're at the end of this video, I'll say this much. Do we really need more new #1s?
Oh, that's another thing. Don't wind me up on that either. Like I'm so annoyed at Marvel about this constant rebooting.
DC does it too. Don't they both do it?
And yeah, they do. But Marvel just seems to have this cycle of 6 issues, reboot, new. Like look at Scarlet Witch. That's all that's been happening pretty much. I mean, pick any character like that that's not as popular to have their own. And yeah, I don't know.
I'm with you. I think what the original intention was to get new readers. That's not the intention today.
No.
It's not. They don't care. I hate to say it, they just don't care. They just keep doing it because it's an uptick in sales.
Yeah, it's money. They want to be able to release. You know, that's why you see all these anniversary issues. They didn't do legacy numbering for us, the fans. They did legacy numbers so that they can have more anniversary issues celebrations all the time. So, oh, hey, it's our 10th issue. Great. Then 5 issues later, hey, it's our 800th issue. Yay, let's have like 20 more variants.
Yeah, exactly. And some of those legacy numbers, especially for the smaller books, they don't even make sense.
Yeah.
Like it's not really a legacy number. They just say, "Oh, this is the 700th issue of this character." No, it's not. So, there's your take, Chico. Thanks for the question, Shane. We're gonna end the show, and we did it. We kept it under 3 hours. How do you feel?
I think it was awesome. I think there was awesome stuff in there. So much fun to talk about all that stuff. And again, awesome presentation. Everything looked great. Mm-hmm. I think there was really just was there 1 or 2? Maybe 1 mistake, really.
There was 2. There's actually 3, but I didn't point it out. I don't think anybody else caught it. I caught it.
Okay.
But I'm not going to say which one is it. You guys got to have to go back and find it. If you find it, put it in the chat. And maybe I'll do something special for you. But I know where it is. So I have to go back and fix it. But before we even do anything, I got to say what's up to my boy Lando, Black Crown Comics. What's going on? I sent him the link. He always sends me the link. And I'm like, cool. And I'm like, you know what? I'm sending him the link. So good seeing you, Lando. All right. Lando, I know you're in the New York area. will you be heading down to the Comic Expo? If you're still on, let me know. All right. Shane, what's going on? Talk to me.
Well,
What's happening?
we have a big thing on Monday, the weekly show.
Oh, darn it. I got to
Can't
get
wait
ready
for
for that.
Yep. I won't remind you of it again. And I have a video that I put out on Sundays. I take a look at my collection and do the values and ranking and key updates of that using CLZ and cover price. So that's fun. And I'm starting to do videos on Saturday. I have them all kind of queued up for the next month.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow's video is, if you watch the first one with my friend Jenny, who's a new collector, I kind of grill her on the last full month of new books and kind of get her take on the covers and the series. And there's some funny things in there that happen in our conversation. So
Really?
check
That's
that
worth
out
checking
if you want.
Awesome. So that's happening over in your place. I'm going to be at the Elite Comic Expo 11. That's happening tomorrow. I'm going to be hanging out over there for a little while. I don't even know for how long. You see how it says from 10 to 6? Chances are I will probably be there from 10 to 6. That's just how I am with these things. Because I'll probably get some interviews, talk to some couple of people. I'm definitely planning to pick up some books. I'm going to submit some books to CGC, so I'll probably get some stuff out there as well. So be on the lookout for that. As I told you guys, the 10K show will be happening. I'm going to talk to Shane and see when do we want to do this show. Find out how we're going to do this show because I'm a very busy guy. It's hard to make it happen, but we are going to do a 10K giveaway. So be on the lookout for that coming up soon. And just like you said, if this is the first time you're watching this show, like you said, Monday is the Spec and Trending show. I love doing that show. I have a blast doing that show. It is a great show. Thank you so much, Nerdy Geek. I really appreciate that. And we're going to have another good stuff. There's a lot of books already that I've looked at in the trend. I'm looking at the trending lists that came out already. Tonight I'll get another list. So I'm going to probably do things last minute again, Shane, because I don't know when I'm going to have time to actually do any of this stuff. So I'm just thinking about when we do vacation, what we're going to do. When we go on vacation, that's going to be weird.
Yeah.
We'll probably do some pre-recorded stuff. You know what I mean? But, thank you, Bobby. Thank you so much for watching. Like every show, we got to leave you with a thank you. So it's time to say thank you. And I'll see you guys next time. Izzyverse. Don't forget, like, subscribe. On the road to 20K now.
That's right.
We'll see you guys. Take care.
I think this is it. I think you're about to go home. Okay. All right. Look, thank you.
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 Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I never said thank you.
And you'll never have to.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I guess I'll see you.